Chapter 1030. The terrifying Red Lotus fist rushed forward and drowned Lu Lai in an instant. It was a terrifying scene. The entire sky was shrouded in red light, like a fiery sunset. Lu Lai's entire body was drowned in the endless red light. Below, everyone was watching anxiously. At this moment, a scream sounded in the sky. Then a figure flew out like a shadow. Accompanying the figure was countless flowers of blood splattered in the sky. What? He's injured. When the crowd saw this scene, they all exclaimed. They naturally knew who the figure that flew backwards was. Because only Lu Lai was drowned in the red light, and Lin Xian was standing on the other side like a god of death. The one who flew out was naturally Lu Lai. His entire body seemed to have been struck by lightning, and most of the bones in his body were shattered. That punch was too terrifying. He couldn't resist it at all. Fortunately, he used his mutated flood dragon arm to block in front of him at the critical moment and resisted most of the force. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as simple as a serious injury. That punch would have turned him into a bloody mist. Rumble. After smashing through more than 10 mountains, Lu Lai's body crashed heavily into the ground. Immediately, the entire ground trembled, and a terrifying deep pit quickly formed. Seeing this scene, everyone's mouths were wide open and their minds went blank. Shen Yulong frowned, and his face was terrifyingly gloomy. Obviously, this scene was beyond his expectations. Beside him, the cold sixth-grade alchemist's face was even more ferocious. Killing intent surged in his eyes. He didn't expect Lin Xian to have such terrifying combat strength apart from his extraordinary talent in alchemy. This made him extremely jealous. In the distance, Morong Qingqing let out a sigh of relief. She had a beautiful smile on her face, and her jade-like hands kept rubbing the snow-white little monkey in her arms. The ground below cracked and countless cracks spread out for thousands of miles, splitting the entire ground into several pieces. Not far away, the mountain peak collapsed, forming countless huge rocks that littered the ground, forming a ruin. At this moment, an abnormally angry roar sounded from the ruins. It was like the howl of a demon, and was extremely terrifying. Then, a terrifying force surged out and blasted all the huge rocks away. Lu Lai's figure appeared. He struggled to get up from the ground. His body was swaying, and he was covered in blood. He looked extremely miserable. However, his eyes were abnormally cold. It was terrifyingly cold, like a cold blade that made people's hearts tremble. More than half of his chest had caved in, and the ribs in his chest were all shattered. However, it was as if he didn't feel anything. He ignored the injuries all over his body and raised his head, staring coldly into the void. "Brat, how dare you injure me? I'll kill you." This voice was incomparably malevolent, as if a demon had crawled out of the void, causing people who heard it to feel their hair stand on end. Lin Xian coldly snorted. "You're already injured like this. How are you going to kill me? How laughable. You will soon know how to kill you." Lu Lai's voice was cold and his eyes were filled with madness. Then, he rubbed his storage ring and quickly took out a pill. This pill was personally given to me by young noble Ling Feng. It was supposed to be used to save my life, but I didn't expect to use it here. "Brat, you made me waste a peerless pill for no reason. Later, I'll torture you to death and let you taste all the torture in the world." Lu Lai's voice was cold, and his eyes were filled with reluctance. However, in the end, he gritted his teeth and quickly swallowed the pill. Then his body emitted cracking sounds. The broken bones quickly healed, and the injuries all over his body were quickly healed. Soon Lu Lai was as good as new. What pill is this? It's so heaven-defying. He recovered from such serious injuries in an instant. Gosh, Lu Lai is too terrifying. He actually has such a powerful technique. The crowd was shocked and couldn't believe it. Lin Xian furrowed his brows as his expression darkened. He was well aware of the injuries caused by the previous punch. It was definitely a serious injury. Even a level 5 honorable realm cultivator wouldn't be able to recover in such a short time. However, a single pill had changed the entire situation. It allowed the heavily injured Lu Lai to recover to his original state. Even the spiritual energy he had consumed was replenished. This made Lin Xian extremely surprised. He was an alchemist and had received the inheritance of the Pill Feather King. It could be said that his knowledge of alchemy was extraordinary. Therefore, he knew how terrifying this pill was. To be able to achieve such an effect, it was at least a 7th grade pill. It might even be an 8th grade pill. He really didn't expect Lu Lai to have such a top grade pill. Shen Yulong, Morong Qingshu, and the others were also extremely shocked. Undying gold pill. He actually has the undying gold pill. Morong Qingshu was extremely shocked. How did this guy do it? First, he had the 10,000 flood dragon bow used by young noble Ling Feng. Now he even took out the undying gold pill. He's only a genius of the Lu family. How could he have so many treasures? Morong Qingshu was too shocked because the undying gold pill was a treasure that only young noble Ling Feng had. Just from the name, one could know that as long as a martial artist didn't die, they could immediately recover after taking one. This was definitely a heaven-defying pill. This kind of thing was usually bestowed by young noble Ling Feng to his ministers. Lu Lai was so young. How could he have gotten such a thing? On the side, Shen Yulong's face was also gloomy. He said in a deep voice, "According to the information I got from the family, it seems that young noble Ling Feng has taken a fancy to Lu Lai's sister. That's why the Lu family's status rose, and Lu Lai could have such a treasure. Lu Lai's sister, no wonder. To be able to become young noble Ling Feng's woman, her family would definitely receive great benefits. This could also explain why Lu Lai had so many treasures in his hands." After the surrounding people heard this, they were envious. They wished that everyone could have a beautiful sister and be fancied by young noble Ling Feng. Then they could also soar into the sky. In the distance, Morong Qingqing frowned again. This scene made her worried again. As for the dark red divine dragon, his mouth was wide open from ear to ear, drooling nonstop. Damn! Undying gold pill. It's actually the undying gold pill. Wasn't that pill recipe lost? I didn't expect it to appear here. This is a good thing. He kept shaking his head, seeming abnormally excited. Below, Lu Lai's body returned to normal. The corner of his mouth curled up into a cruel smile. Kid, I will let you know what regret is. Not good. I'm afraid he still has a trump card that he hasn't used yet. Hearing Lu Lai's words, Morong Qingqing was also shocked. Lin Xian, on the other hand, frowned because he realized that the other party was not boasting. He could clearly sense that Lu Lai's aura suddenly became stronger, far stronger than before. 9 Revolution Netherworld Mantra. Lu Lai shouted angrily. His expression was abnormally cold. His black hair fluttered, as if he was a demon that walked out from hell. His entire person was incomparably demonic. Chapter 1031. 9 Turns Nether Mantra. Lu Lai roared as his black hair fluttered in the wind. He was like a demon from hell, becoming abnormally demonic. A strange and terrifying energy burst out from his body and swept through heaven and earth. Feeling this aura, the surrounding people's faces changed, especially Shen Yulong, who immediately screamed. 9 Turns Nether Mantra. How is this possible? He actually knows the 9 Turns Nether Mantra. Brother Yulong, what exactly is this 9 Turns Nether Mantra? Shen Yaotian and the rest asked in a trembling voice. This is also young Master Ling Feng's cultivation technique. It's a powerful earth-grade martial art. I didn't expect young Master Ling Feng to pass this down to Lu Lai. He was too shocked. One had to know that the 9 Turns Nether Mantra was a true earth-grade martial art. Its power and value were immeasurable. Earth-grade martial art. Hearing this voice, everyone was stunned as they looked at the sky in shock. Earth-grade martial arts were the top martial arts in the continent, something that every martial artist dreamed of obtaining. They didn't expect Lu Lai's final trump card to be an earth-grade martial art. Lin Xian was probably in danger. The power of an earth-grade martial art was mysterious and unfathomable. It was absolutely terrifying. Indeed, with Lu Lai's strength, even an ordinary fifth heaven supremacy would find it difficult to contend with an earth-grade martial art. Lin Xian might have the Lone Star Sword, but his opponent's Black Dragon, Bao, wasn't to be trifled with either. With this comparison, Lin Xian was definitely at a disadvantage. Unless Lin Xian also had an earth-grade martial art. But did Lin Xian really have an earth-grade martial art? No one knew what was going on. Everyone was looking ahead nervously. This battle was really too exciting. Every time both sides used their trump cards, it was beyond their expectations, causing them to be extremely shocked. Among those of the same level, even those of the older generation wouldn't be able to do so. Lin Xian felt this aura, and his expression turned solemn. What a terrifying aura. This was an earth-grade martial art. His voice was extremely solemn. Obviously, this aura made him feel a great pressure. 9 turns Nether Mantra first move. Lu Lai's voice was terrifying and extremely powerful. Countless rays of light shot out from his body, dazzling beyond compare. At this moment, his Flood Dragon martial art also separated from his right arm and circled around his body, completely fusing with him, making him look like a war god. Boom! Along with his voice, a terrifying aura quickly gushed out from his palm. In an instant, a large mountain near him was razed to the ground. The terrifying aura didn't stop and continued to surge forward. Lin Xian's pupils shrank as he felt the threat of death looming over him. His body swayed as he executed the illusory demon steps and quickly retreated. At the same time, he tightened his grip on the Lone Star Sword. The great dragon sword soul circulated rapidly within his body, and a sharp sword soul aura erupted from his body. Boom! In the next moment, a terrifying crater appeared where Lin Xian had been standing. It was incomparably huge, as if it was connected to hell. This was simply too terrifying. If Lin Xian had been a step later, even with the Red Lotus battle armor, he would not have been able to withstand that terrifying power. The power of the 9 turns Nether Mantra did not dissipate. Instead, it surged once again and flew towards Lin Xian, determined to blast him into dust. Seeing this, Lin Xian did not hesitate any longer. He quickly took a deep breath and waved the Lone Star Sword. Streaks of mysterious trajectories were drawn in the air. Lin Xian quickly swung his sword and scattered them in front of him. Rumble! The sky seemed to have been cut open as a huge sword shadow formed above. In the end, with an incomparably violent and supreme stance, it ruthlessly slashed down on the huge light beam. Boom! The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Countless huge mountains were razed to the ground, and the rivers flowed backward, forming endless waves of air. Seeing this scene, everyone's hearts trembled violently. They all exclaimed, "He blocked it! How is this possible?" The 9 turns Nether Mantra was blocked. They were all stunned. They did not expect such a violent attack to be blocked by Lin Xian. No one dared to imagine. That was an earth-rank martial art, the top cultivation technique on the continent. There was no choice. Earth-rank martial arts were too famous. Every martial artist knew the terror of an earth-rank martial art. It could be said that whoever had an earth-rank martial art could soar to the sky. Killing people above one's level was nothing difficult. But now Lin Xian actually blocked the terrifying earth-rank martial art. This made everyone's heads explode. What? How is this possible? This is impossible. Lu Lai's pupils constricted as he stared at Lin Xian with a pair of cold eyes. He did not expect that even an earth-rank martial art, like the 9 turns Nether Mantra, could not kill Lin Xian. This made him unable to believe it. "Kid, I have to admit that you have indeed exceeded my expectations. But today, you will definitely die, because that was only the first move of the 9 turns Nether Mantra. Next, let's see how many moves you can resist." At the end of his speech, Lu Lai's entire body was incomparably malevolent. The nether chi on his body overflowed into the sky. His entire person was like a peerless demon, terrifying and terrifying. In the distance, when everyone heard this, they were incomparably shocked. Just the first move was terrifying to such an extent. Then wouldn't the following moves be heaven-defying? At the same time, they were also extremely shocked by Lin Xian. To be able to block such a terrifying move, it was truly beyond their expectations. That sword technique just now was very terrifying. I guess it is very likely to be an earth-rank martial art. Otherwise, it would be impossible to block the 9 turns Nether Mantra. Morong Qingshu said in a deep voice. Everyone was incomparably excited. This battle was too exciting. At this moment Lu Lai, who was at the front, shouted again. 9 turns Nether Mantra, second move. As he waved his hand, a pitch-black light gushed out from his palm. It carried a monstrous cold aura, as if the gates of hell had opened. Boom! Demonic clouds billowed into the sky as black gas enveloped the area. The scene in front suddenly changed as if it had become a hellish scene, causing one's scalp to go numb. Then, the pitch-black demonic fog quickly surged and gradually formed a black figure. It was a human figure. It was incomparably black like black jade. On his head, there was a pair of devil horns and a pair of huge black wings on his back. He held a crescent-shaped sickle in his hand and emitted a cold and deathly aura from his body. This human figure stood quietly in the void, emitting a monstrous killing intent, as if he had walked out from hell. This was the power of the second move of the 9 turns nether mantra, forming a nether emissary. Although it was just a mass of energy, it was too terrifying. It was even more terrifying than a true supremacy. Then, under the horrified gazes of the crowd, the nether emissary moved. He took a step forward, and pitch-black demonic patterns rose from his feet. Like a wave, it quickly spread out in all directions. The void shattered, the mountain below collapsed, and the ground sank. A violent force quickly swept through the world. Chapter 1032. The Netherworld Messenger's cold eyes were like 2 sharp swords that pierced through the void as he stared at Lin Xian. In the next moment, he quickly waved the crescent scythe in his hand and slashed down. A monstrous killing intent erupted like a flood and swept out in all directions. A pitch-black light surged like the Nether River and quickly slashed down in the void. It was as if it could split the mountains and rivers and destroy the heavens. The pitch-black energy whistled like a raging wave and formed an irresistible aura. It surged forward as if it wanted to swallow Lin Xian whole. This scene was too terrifying, causing everyone in the surroundings to cry out in alarm. Morong Qingqing's beautiful face was also extremely solemn. She had even mobilized the spiritual energy in her body and was prepared to make a move at the critical moment. Lin Xian used the illusory demon steps and continuously retreated. At the same time, the red lotus armor on his body released a demonic light. A red lotus appeared and swayed continuously, forming a force that blocked the incoming energy. At the same time, he coldly snorted, "Want to kill me? Not so easy." At the very least, this bit of strength was not enough. Lin Xian's expression was cold as he quickly waved the Lone Star sword in his hand. Gale Lightning Sword, Dual Sword Star Annihilation. In the sky, 2 huge sword shadows formed and quickly fell down like heavenly swords. This sword directly cut the entire sky into pieces. The terrifying aura shocked everyone. The huge firmament sword shadow seemed to be able to destroy the stars in the sky. The thick sword aura directly cut the ground in half. Lin Xian waved his sword and controlled the firmament sword shadow to collide with the black crescent scythe. Suddenly, a deafening sound rang out. Endless light burst forth like a rain of light and scattered in all directions. The entire void was in a state of chaos, and countless shocking cracks were spreading out. Even Shun Yulong and the others' pupils shrank as they were shocked. In this situation, even if they went up, they would be helpless. This was because this was already the most powerful battle strength in the same realm. The 2 energies were too terrifying. Any 4th Heaven Venerables would instantly turn into ashes if they went up against them. Even 5th Heaven Venerables would not be able to hold on for long. These 2 people can be called monsters, Morong Qingshu also said in a deep voice. In front of him, Lin Xian had a cold expression and a sharp aura. He had used the second move of the Gale Lightning Sword technique to block his opponent's attack. At the same time, he did not stop moving. The long sword in his hand swung rapidly, forming the third move of the Gale Lightning Sword technique. The azure blue sword moved quickly in the air, forming a very mysterious trajectory. Suddenly, the clouds in the sky changed, and another giant sword shadow quickly formed. The moment the third firmament sword shadow was formed, it brought with it an earth-shattering aura as it danced swiftly in the void. This scene was too terrifying. It was as if even gods and devils had to retreat. Gale Lightning Sword. 3 swords frighten ghosts and gods. At this moment, Lin Xian also let out a ferocious roar as his arm abruptly descended. "You're courting death." Lu Lai was enraged. Originally, he thought that by taking out the 9 revolutions nether mantra, he would be able to easily kill his opponent. However, he did not expect that Lin Xian would be the same as him, possessing an earth-rank martial art. Therefore, the two of them were once again in a stalemate. And now his opponent actually dared to take the initiative to attack. This made him furious. Taking a deep breath, Lu Lai's expression was ice-cold, and his eyes emitted a fierce light. 9 revolutions nether mantra third move. Following his furious roar, the pitch-black nether radiant emissary in front of him became even more terrifying. On the giant evil demon wings, mysterious patterns began to form, filled with a terrifying aura of death. He was like the Grim Reaper, walking on the ground. Every step he took cracked the void. The death scythe in his hand danced rapidly. Countless black rays surged, turning into boundless demonic aura that devoured everything in front of him. This was the aura of the netherworld. It could take away all life, and was extremely terrifying. Everyone in the distance felt their hearts tremble. It was as if the Grim Reaper had grabbed their throats, making them unable to breathe. Even Shen Yulong's face was covered in sweat. Lin Xian was also under great pressure. The surging black fog formed a giant nether beast in the void. It roared at the sky as if it was going to devour him. Fortunately, he had the Red Lotus armor, which could withstand most of the pressure. Even so, he still felt the blood in his body churning, and his bones cracking. One could imagine how terrifying his opponent was. However, his strength was also extremely powerful. With a serious expression, he quickly swung the Lone Star sword in his hand. The third firmament giant sword carried an aura that could destroy gods and demons as it quickly descended. The giant sword and the giant beast clashed in the air. The momentum was terrifying, and the entire sky was drowned out. At this moment, Lu Lai's lips curled into a cruel smile. The murderous intent in his eyes grew even stronger. Die brat! Following his words, the pitch-black nether radiant emissary suddenly moved. The giant evil demon wings flapped, and he disappeared on the spot in an instant. What? So fast? Shen Yulong was shocked, and his pupils shrank. He did not even see his opponent's movements. Lin Xian, be careful. In the distance, Morong Qingqing also shouted a warning. Lin Xian's pupils shrank, and he activated the Red Lotus armor to the maximum. However, in the next moment, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of him. It was so fast that he did not even have time to react. The nether radiant emissary was like the Grim Reaper. He came to Lin Xian's side and took away the boundless nether aura. He raised the death scythe in his hand and slashed it down at Lin Xian. Seeing this, everyone's hearts were in their mouths. Morong Qingqing's expression changed drastically. She did not expect the black shadow to be so fast. It was too late for her to make a move now. She could only place her hopes on Lin Xian. The nether radiant emissary in front of them waved the giant death scythe and shot out a pitch-black ray of light. A ball of black light, like a demonic light, devoured everything. It brought with it the terrifying power of death and slashed down violently. Boom! A shocking sound rang out. The void trembled, and a huge black hole was formed. It expanded rapidly and occupied half the sky. Countless rays of light were devoured by the black hole. The scene was too terrifying. The entire sky was covered by the black hole. What? He was hit directly. It's over. It's over. Lin Xian will definitely not be able to block this move. That is a true Earth-rank martial art. This Lu Lai is too powerful. He actually has so many treasures in his hands. Countless people exclaimed. Shen Yulong and the cold alchemist Ming heaved a sigh of relief. Their eyes were filled with excitement. No matter how powerful Lin Xian was, he had no chance of survival after being hit directly by the nether radiant emissary. The gloomy alchemist revealed a sinister smile. No matter how talented Lin Xian was, he was still going to die in the end. His heart was filled with the pleasure of revenge. In the sky, Lu Lai laughed wildly. His terrifying voice shook the mountains and rivers. Lin Xian. Morong Qingqing looked at this scene, and a trace of despair appeared in her eyes. That beautiful face of hers was filled with endless pain. Then, her whole body started to shake slightly, and a trace of intense killing intent appeared in her eyes. A terrifying purple aura gushed out from her body. It was as if the purple aura came from the east and enveloped her entire body. Chapter 1033. Morong Qingqing had a murderous look on her face, as she was surrounded by a boundless purple aura. Her eyes were like lightning as she stared coldly at the sky above the building. In the next moment, her body swayed, and she shot up into the sky like a bolt of purple lightning. "Little girl Morong, don't be rash," the dark red divine dragon shouted, but it was too late. In an instant, Morong Qingqing was in the sky. She waved her jade-like hand and slammed it towards Lu Lai. The void trembled as a large purple palm condensed. It was like the palm of a demon god as it slammed down from the sky. This change was very sudden, and everyone was stunned. Lu Lai's laughter suddenly stopped. He looked up and his pupil shrank. At the same time, he snorted and continued to use the 9 turns Netherworld mantra to control the Netherworld messenger to attack the large purple palm. An earth-shattering sound was heard as the two collided. The entire void collapsed quickly. Lu Lai took 3 steps back. He was shocked and his heart was beating wildly. This palm was too terrifying, and it was beyond his expectations. Fortunately, he had the 9 turns Nether mantra, so he was able to block the attack. However, he was extremely vigilant. His eyes were like lightning as he stared coldly ahead. This collision also caused Morong Qingqing to stop. She was like a peerless fairy as she floated in the void. Her body emitted a terrifying murderous aura. Seeing that it was Morong Qingqing who attacked, Lu Lai's face darkened. He asked in a deep voice, "Fairy Morong, what do you mean? If he dies, you will be buried with him." Morong Qingqing's voice was cold, but her meaning was obvious. She wanted to avenge Lin Xian. Hearing this, the surrounding martial artists were in an uproar. However, Morong Qingqi's face changed drastically. His body swayed, and he also appeared in the sky. He quickly said to Morong Qingqing, "Qingqing, Brother Lu is our Morong family's distinguished guest. Moreover, this battle was originally proposed by Lin Xian. Now that his strength is inferior." "Humph." Before Morong Qingqiu could finish speaking, Morong Qingqing snorted coldly. Her entire body was extremely cold. "You dare to stop my decision?" His voice was filled with dominance. "You misunderstood. That's not what I meant." Hearing those words, Morong Qingqiu quickly shook his head. His complexion became extremely ugly, but he didn't dare to say anything. Even though he was the young master of Crimson Crescent City was only a branch of the Morong family. The young woman before him was the true princess of the Morong family. That status was something that even their old ancestor could not compare to, let alone him. The difference between the two of them was like heaven and earth. Therefore, he did not dare to refute Morong Qingqing's words. "Morong Qingqing, I respect you as the little princess of the Morong family, and I don't want to fight with you. But don't go too far. Do you really think that I'm afraid of you?" Lu Lai's voice was cold. He could not afford to be weak in this situation. If Morong Qingqing made a move, he would not be the only one to suffer. All the disciples of the Lu family would suffer. On the other hand, Morong Qingqing did not care about anything. She shouted, "I've said it before. If I kill him, you'll be buried with him." Following her words, the mass of purple gas became more and more dense. It was like a mass of purple fog that enveloped Morong Qingqing's delicate body. Then a terrifying power was emitted from within her body. On the other hand, Lu Lai's expression was ferocious. He summoned the Netherworld messenger back to his side. His entire being was like a peerless demon, incomparably arrogant. Just as the two of them were about to fight, a light cough was suddenly heard from within the violent energy. Hearing this voice, Morong Qingqing's delicate body trembled. Her beautiful face revealed a joyful expression. "Lin Xian, he's fine." Indeed, in the next moment, a figure flashed and appeared beside Morong Qingqing in an instant. Lin Xian. Seeing this figure, everyone was stunned. They did not expect that Lin Xian was still alive. "What? That's impossible!" Lu Lai screamed. His eyes were filled with shock. He could not help but be shocked. That attack just now was a killing move of the 9 turns Netherworld technique. Even a 5th heaven supremacy would fall if he came. But now Lin Xian was actually still alive. This was just too shocking. On the side, Morong Qingqiu heaved a sigh of relief. He did not want to see Morong Qingqing and Lu Lai fight. "You're injured." Seeing Lin Xian covered in blood, Morong Qingqing said with heartache, "I've made you worry. Leave the rest to me." Lin Xian had blood on the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were abnormally bright. All right. Morong Qingqing nodded. She turned around and floated down. Since Lin Xian was still alive, she would not attack again. After all, this was a battle between men. After Morong Qingqing left, Morong Qingshu also quickly left. Only Lin Xian and Lu Lai were left in the sky. You're really lucky. You're still alive? Lu Lai's voice was ferocious. It's not that easy to take my life, Lin Xian said coldly. Fortunately, he had the Red Lotus armor to protect him. Otherwise, that attack would have taken his life. You're the first person to injure me so badly, so you have to pay the price. Lin Xian held the Lone Star sword tightly and looked straight ahead. You're fine because you're lucky. Let's see if you can survive this time. Lu Lai's expression was ferocious. In the next moment, the spiritual energy in his body surged. The demonic clouds behind him tumbled, and he became terrifying and violent again. The netherworld messenger beside him flapped his demon wings. Like a black lightning bolt, he quickly charged toward Lin Xian. Last time, this was the move that seriously injured Lin Xian. So when everyone saw this move again, they were nervous and paid close attention. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was cold. He waved the Lone Star sword in his hand again. Gale Lightning Sword, Fourth Sword, Earthquake Sky. This time, Lin Xian directly used the fourth sword of the Gale Lightning Sword. Moreover, he held the huge firmament sword Shadow in his hand and swept it out. With a swing of the sword, the sky and earth lost their color. The sword Shadow released a blinding light that was even more dazzling than the sun. It quickly slashed through the void. Rumble! The entire sky shattered as if someone had flipped it over. The terrifying sword radiance destroyed everything. The netherworld messenger had nowhere to hide, and was instantly enveloped by the sword. The entire sky was bright as if countless suns were shining at the same time. The crowd couldn't help but scream. They covered their eyes and frantically retreated. The radiance was too sharp. It was like thousands of sword radiances were scattered in all directions. It was so bright that no one could open their eyes. When the radiance in the sky disappeared, the crowd only dared to open their eyes. They then quickly looked toward the sky. They happened to see the last scene. The netherworld messenger with the demon horns on his head and the black demon wings on his back quickly disintegrated. He turned into black gas and scattered in the sky. Lu Lai was also hit by the terrifying sword radiance. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. Chapter 1034. Lu Lai screamed crazily. He couldn't believe that his opponent could still injure him when he used the third move of the 9 turns nether mantra. This was completely out of his expectations. The disciples of the Lu family below saw this scene and screamed in agony. Everyone's face was filled with horror. Lin Xian was too powerful, so powerful that they were terrified. Under everyone's horrified gaze, Lin Xian moved quickly and rushed forward. After severely injuring Lu Lai with one strike, Lin Xian moved his body and transformed into a beam of sword aura, quickly dashing forward. Lin Xian wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity to take his life while he was down. Lu Lai kept retreating, his tall body covered in blood. He roared at the sky and his black hair danced wildly. His eyes were filled with fear and anger. Shocking, it was too shocking. He didn't expect that he would still be seriously injured after using his last trump card. When he saw Lin Xian rushing over, his pupils shrank. He twisted his body and used the 9 turns nether mantra to stop himself. At the same time, the nether chi behind him surged and formed a pair of black demonic wings that carried him quickly. Lin Xian let out a long roar and formed a pair of thunderstorm wings behind him. Strange runes flowed on them, and the wings flapped, increasing his speed to the extreme. The combination of the thunderstorm wings and the illusory demonic steps allowed him to catch up with Lu Lai in an instant. Seeing the figure close by, Lu Lai's face changed, and a hint of madness appeared in his eyes. 9 turns nether mantra, the fourth move. With his current strength, he could only use the first 3 moves of the 9 turns nether mantra. His body couldn't withstand the nether chi if he used the fourth move. However, the situation didn't allow him to think too much. He had to dodge Lin Xian's attack first. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and prepared to use the fourth move of the 9 turns nether mantra. However, just as he was about to use it, Lin Xian's long sword slashed down quickly. The terrifying sword qi tore through the void, forcibly interrupting his cultivation method. Boom! Lu Lai didn't have a defense as strong as Lin Xian's, so he was heavily injured by the sword and fell to the ground. "Ah, brat, you dare to hurt me? I'll kill you!" Lu Lai roared madly. In the battle between the two, Lin Xian once again gained the upper hand and suppressed her. She simply couldn't tolerate it. However, so what if he couldn't endure it? The current him couldn't withstand Lin Xian's swordsmanship at all. Just as he was roaring madly, a huge sword shadow formed above him and quickly slashed towards him. This sword was too terrifying. It contained the terrifying power of an earth-tier martial art. In an instant, it tore open the sky and ruthlessly enveloped Lu Lai. No! Seeing this, the countless sons of the Lu clan howled madly. Their eyes were filled with fear and despair. Lu Lai's pupils shrank as the fear of death rose in his heart. At this critical moment, he desperately burned his spirit energy and activated the 9 turns nether mantra. The black devil wings on his back flapped, and the runes on them shone brightly. He forcefully moved horizontally. However, Lin Xian obviously didn't intend to let him go. His black hair fluttered in the wind like a sword god. He stretched out a huge palm of light that quickly formed and grabbed the firmament sword shadow. Then, he slashed in Lu Lai's direction again. Boom! The entire void exploded once again. This sword strike shattered all the surrounding mountains, and a 1,000-mile-long crack appeared on the ground. Although Lu Lai had the devil wings, he still couldn't escape from the sword qi. His left arm was slashed by the violent firmament sword shadow and was directly cut off. Blood splattered everywhere. This scene was too shocking. It directly stunned everyone. The surrounding martial artists were all stunned. They were all like stone statues, and their minds were blank. They didn't expect that the extremely powerful Lu Lai would have his arm cut off. This was simply too shocking. Lu Lai's body moved horizontally and roared at the sky. He was in a frenzy. His left arm was directly turned into powder by the firmament sword shadow and didn't exist anymore. Countless flowers of blood floated in the air. Losing an arm was unbearable for him. Ah! Lu Lai went crazy. The netherworld qi behind him surged and then quickly burned, forming the netherworld fire. The pitch-black flames surged with a strange and terrifying aura. It was like the flames of hell, causing people's hearts to tremble. The flames enveloped Lu Lai's body. Countless flames jumped and came to his left arm, forming a force that healed the wound. Lin Xian's sword qi was too fierce. With Lu Lai's own spiritual power, he couldn't eliminate it at all. He had to use the netherworld qi to resist the sword qi. Soon the wound stopped bleeding. However, his left arm disappeared forever. "You dare to cut off my arm. I want you dead." Lu Lai's expression was crazy. He couldn't accept it at all. Losing one of his arms had damaged his image, and his strength had also been greatly reduced. Moreover, this would become the shame of his life. It was even worse than killing him. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they were even more terrified. That was Lu Lai. He had already used the 9 turns netherworld mantra, an earth-rank martial art. However, he still had his arm cut off. No one had expected this outcome. Even Shen Yulong and Morong Qingsha's faces were gloomy, and their eyelids were twitching. To be honest, they thought they were peerless talents. However, at this moment compared to Lin Xian there was a huge gap. The two of them couldn't accept this gap. In front, Lu Lai had completely gone crazy. He burned his spiritual power and completely transformed it into the netherworld qi. He wanted to use the 4th move of the 9 turns netherworld mantra with all his might. He roared crazily. His hair fluttered and his body was covered in blood. His expression was ferocious. Around him, the netherworld qi gradually swelled up, rolling like the waves of the sea. In the distance, Lin Xian snorted. "Stop struggling. You don't have any chance." He wouldn't give Lu Lai another chance to use an earth-rank martial art. Therefore, in the next moment, he turned into a sword light and quickly rushed forward. He waved the Lone Star sword in his hand and quickly circulated the longevity art in his body, crazily absorbing the surrounding spiritual power. Lin Xian used the Gale Lightning sword in a domineering manner once again. The huge sword shadow filled the sky, and emitted an aura that made people despair. Lu Lai was also unwilling to accept this. With his strength, he couldn't use the fourth move of the 9 turns netherworld mantra. He had to burn his spiritual power and disregard the consequences. However, even so, he could only barely use it. However, in the face of such a terrifying sword, he couldn't block it at all. He couldn't even use the fourth move. Boom! Lu Lai was slashed by the sword and flew out like a kite. Another terrifying sword soul appeared on his body. Fortunately, he had the netherworld chi around him, which helped him block some of it. Otherwise, this sword would have cut him in half. Chapter 1035. Not only that, the 9 turns nether mantra was forcefully interrupted, causing him to suffer from the backlash of his cultivation technique. He suffered severe internal injuries. Even the spiritual energy in his body was unable to circulate smoothly. It could be said that Lu Lai was extremely weak due to internal and external troubles. On the other hand, Lin Xian became more and more courageous as the battle progressed. The art of longevity in his body had a powerful recovery and circulation ability, giving him an endless supply of spiritual energy. The Great Dragon Sword Soul also allowed Lin Xian's combat strength to reach its peak. Therefore, Lin Xian was like a sword god at this moment, unstoppable. Pung! Another sword strike landed heavily on Lu Lai's body. Immediately, a sword mark appeared on his body. One could clearly see the deep white bones and churned flesh. Lu Lai went completely crazy. He ignored the consequences and swung his right fist to fight against Lin Xian. The nether spirit pulsed and wrapped around his fist, forming a strange force that resisted Lin Xian's sword energy. The two of them exchanged a few moves. Lin Xian's sword energy became sharper and sharper. He swung his sword 5 times in a row, all of which landed on Lu Lai's fist. Immediately, the powerful nether spirit's fire was extinguished by the sharp sword light. Seeing this, Lu Lai was shocked and despair appeared in his eyes. That was the nether spirit's fire. It was the most powerful flame he could create by burning his spiritual energy. However, it couldn't stop Lin Xian's sword energy. He couldn't believe it and turned to flee. Lin Xian's aura was too strong now. He couldn't resist at all. However, Lin Xian was faster than him. Just as Lu Lai made his move, Lin Xian quickly unleashed his Ice Lotus martial soul. A strong icy power enveloped the area, instantly slowing down Lu Lai's speed. Streaks of blue icy aura surged, forming countless frost, as if they were about to freeze him. Damn it, get out of my way! Lu Lai was extremely angry. He quickly burned his spiritual energy and formed the nether spirit's fire to resist the ice. However, what awaited him was another sharp sword light. This sword light drew a strange arc in the air and quickly chopped at his right arm. Suddenly, a powerful light burst out. With a blood-curdling scream, Lu Lai's right arm was chopped off again. Blood gushed out and dyed the sky red. Ah! Lu Lai let out a blood-curdling scream. Both of his arms had been chopped off. It could be said that he had completely lost his ability to fight. If he didn't have a heaven-defying elixir, it would be impossible for him to recover his arms with his current cultivation. In other words, he would become a cripple in the future. This was worse than killing him. Everyone was shocked once again. Their eyes were filled with fear. The powerful Lu Lai had lost an arm again. This was too terrifying. They knew that Lu Lai had lost. Not only had he lost this battle, but he had also lost his future. A cultivator without arms was like a tiger without claws and teeth. It was likely that Lu Lai would fall from the ranks of geniuses in the future. He might even be worse than an ordinary person. Morong Qingcheng's lips curled upwards. She knew that Lin Xian had won this battle. No! In the sky, Lu Lai let out an unwilling roar. As if he had gone mad, he quickly burned all of the spirit energy in his body, and even his blood began to burn. Brat, I'm going to kill you. Lu Lai's voice was so loud that it shook the 9 heavens. It was like a demon causing one's scalp to go numb. Under his desperate urging, the chi of the netherworld around him grew more and more, and then quickly enveloped him. A pitch-black netherworld armor quickly formed and covered Lu Lai's entire body. 2 ghostly claws formed where his arms had been chopped off. It was pitch black and extremely terrifying. At this moment, Lu Lai's aura was too terrifying. wearing the netherworld armor. The netherworld flames danced on it, making him look like a demon king from hell. In the next moment, his body swayed, and he charged toward Lin Xian like a bolt of black lightning. Haha, let's die together. Lu Lai's face was ferocious, and there was a trace of despair in his eyes. Oh no, he wants to die together. Morong Qingqing became nervous again. Everyone around them was nervous. They stared at the sky and held their breaths. Lin Xian was also shocked. He could naturally sense how powerful his opponent was. It was a power that was obtained by sacrificing his life. Lu Lai's netherworld armor was probably no weaker than his red lotus armor. Moreover, the other party still had the heart to die, and wanted to perish together with him. Thus he could no longer hold back. An ice lotus formed under his feet. Lin Xian summoned his ice lotus martial soul, and quickly released the merciless power of the wind and snow. A violent snowstorm formed around him, and a dark blue world of ice and snow quickly formed. Lin Xian did not want to use his ice lotus martial soul to resist Lu Lai. Instead, he wanted to use the endless snowstorm to block everyone's view. In the next moment, he was going to summon his great dragon sword soul. The surrounding snowstorm became thicker and thicker, forming a light screen that covered a radius of 100 miles. No one could see what was happening inside. At this moment, Lin Xian summoned her great dragon sword soul. A dragon-shaped sword shadow appeared in front of him. It was like a real dragon, and it crushed the void. It was extremely terrifying. Lin Xian reached out and grabbed the dragon-shaped sword hilt. Then, a dragon's roar resounded through the sky. In the next moment, a sword light lit up as if a real dragon had been born. It roared and surged forward. This sword was too sharp. Nothing could stop it. It was like a divine sword light that swept through and destroyed everything. Bang! In the next moment, the dragon-shaped sword light collided with Lu Lai. Bang bang bang! A terrifying explosion rang out. Under Lu Lai's horrified gaze, the underworld armor on his body was cut in half. Not only that, his entire body was cut in half along with his netherworld armor. Lu Lai knew that he would die. He did not believe that Lin Xian could cut through his netherworld armor. One had to know that even a fifth heaven supremacy could not cut through his armor. However, Lin Xian had done it. He did not have the chance to think about why. His body had been cut in half, and he could not be more dead. Lin Xian also recalled his great dragon sword soul. His face was extremely pale. This battle was too intense. His opponent was very powerful, and had used many trump cards. Hence, he had used too many trump cards, causing him to expend too much energy. Fortunately, he had a powerful cultivation technique, like the longevity art. Otherwise, he would not have been able to use so many powerful martial arts. In the next moment, Lin Xian recalled his ice lotus martial soul, and the surrounding world of ice and snow. The crowd below could not wait any longer. When the world of ice and snow appeared, they were abnormally anxious. They realized that they could not see the situation inside at all. Even Shen Yulong and Morong Qingshu were the same. Fortunately, they did not have to wait for long before the world of ice and snow disappeared. It disappeared. Is the battle over? Someone exclaimed. Instantly, everyone was shocked. They raised their heads and looked carefully. Then they were all stunned. Their minds went blank, and they were dumbfounded. They saw Lin Xian standing in the void with a pale face. In front of him was Lu Lai, who had been cut in half. What? Lu Lai is dead. Chapter 1036. Everyone felt their scalps go numb. They didn't dare to believe it, because they had seen with their own eyes how Lu Lai wanted to die together with his opponent. It was too terrifying. Even a fifth-level venerable wouldn't be able to resist it. However, Lu Lai was dead and Lin Xian was fine. What exactly happened? Lu Lai used such a powerful move and was still killed. What kind of martial arts did Lin Xian use? Everyone was puzzled and discussed. They knew that all of this had happened when the world of ice was formed. However, none of them could see the situation inside clearly. They only knew that Lu Lai had been split in half. Lu Lai's death caused a great shock to everyone. They didn't expect that such a battle between the top young geniuses would end like this. That was Lu Lai. He was a top genius, and had many trump cards in his hand. In the end, he even used an earth-rank martial art. However, he was still killed here. Everyone looked at Lin Xian in the sky with reverence. Shen Yulong and the sixth-level alchemist beside him had gloomy expressions. Their eyes were filled with shock. They felt like they were dreaming. They didn't dare to believe what had happened. Especially Shen Yulong. His entire body was trembling slightly. One had to know that Lu Lai was an expert who was on par with him. However, he had been killed. Didn't this mean that even he wasn't a match for Lin Xian? The cold sixth-level alchemist's expression was even more ferocious. He clenched his fists tightly and roared in his heart. Not only was Lin Xian's talent in alchemy better than his, but his battle prowess was also heaven-defying. He could even kill top geniuses. This made him extremely jealous and terrified. Morong Qingshu was silent. He was extremely shocked. Previously, he had never placed Lin Xian in his eyes. He thought that Lin Xian was just borrowing Morong Qingcheng's strength. Now it seemed that he was gravely mistaken. Regardless of talent or battle prowess, Lin Xian was a top existence in the younger generation. This caused a trace of fear to appear in his heart. Even Morong Qingcheng's eyes flickered. Lin Xian's methods had indeed exceeded her expectations. The disciples of the Lu family below were wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. They couldn't accept the fact that their family's top experts had been killed here. Lu Chang's legs trembled as he looked at Lin Xian. He really didn't expect that this young man, who was inferior to him a month ago, would now be able to kill the top genius of his family. Looking at that figure, a deep sense of despair rose in his heart. Lu Lai's death not only alarmed the surrounding younger generation, but also the big shots. After all, Lu Lai's identity was special. He was a genius of the Lu clan. And the Lu clan was one of the 8 great clans under young Master Ling Feng. Furthermore, Lu Lai's younger sister had become young Master Ling Feng's woman. He was afraid that if the other party knew about Lu Lai's matter, they would not let the matter rest. Given Sir Ling Feng's methods, killing Lin Xian was as easy as flipping his palm. Even if Lin Xian had the backing of the Immortal Martial Academy, he wouldn't be able to survive. However, those big shots didn't say anything. Lin Xian's current status and talent didn't allow them to say anything. Ancestor Qiyu sighed. Looking at the figure in the sky, his eyes flickered. In the end, he said in a low voice, "Send the remaining disciples of the Lu clan out." He couldn't control Lu Lai's death. After all, both parties were willing to duel. He had no right to interfere. However, he still had to protect the remaining disciples. Otherwise, Lu Jia wouldn't let them off if all the Lu clan members in Crimson Crescent City died. Looking at the retreating disciples, Lin Xian's expression was cold. He didn't make a move, because these people didn't have the qualifications to make him do anything. However, the surrounding crowd was silent. They knew that the Lu clan wouldn't let the matter rest. Lin Xian looked at the corpse in front of him coldly. Then, with a wave of his hand, the corpse's storage ring flew into his hand. Since he had already become enemies with the Lu clan, he wouldn't return their storage ring. With Lu Lai's status, there should be a lot of treasures inside. Just the value of the Black Dragon Bow alone was enough to shock the world. Moreover, Lin Xian guessed that the storage ring might contain the 9 turns nether mantra. One had to know that it was a true earth-tier unbounded mantra. Its value was immeasurable. Seeing Lin Xian's action, the surrounding crowd was filled with greed and envy. However, no one dared to say anything. Even the big shots didn't say anything. The dark red divine dragon was unusually excited. He waved his dragon claws and jumped up excitedly. However, in the next moment his expression changed drastically. He shouted with all his might, "Kid, be careful." Actually, Lin Xian already felt the danger. The 1,000 Beast Cauldron's weapon spirit in his body suddenly issued a warning. In the next moment, he felt a shocking killing intent enveloping him. The moment Zero warned him, Lin Xian had already used the illusory demon steps and retreated to the side. However, he still underestimated his opponent's speed. Fast, it was too fast. It wasn't even any weaker than his illusory demon steps. This made him extremely shocked. One had to know that his illusory demon steps was also an earth-tier martial art. Its speed was extremely fast. Even a 5th-level Venerable Realm expert might not be able to catch up. However, his opponent was able to keep up with his speed. This made him extremely shocked. It was obvious that his opponent had an earth-tier martial art movement technique. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to catch up to him. A cold light flashed in the air. It was like the cold moonlight, carrying a biting cold killing intent. Then, a figure quickly approached Lin Xian like a ghost. At the same time, the cold moonlight in the sky quickly slashed down at Lin Xian. Seeing this scene, everyone's hearts trembled. Even Shen Yulong and Morong Qingshi's expressions changed drastically. This attack was too fast. Even they couldn't dodge it. Boom! The red lotus armor on Lin Xian's body bloomed with light, forming the most solid defense. In the next moment, the cold light ruthlessly slashed on the armor, emitting the sound of metal clashing. Blood splattered everywhere. It was abnormally glaring. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect Lin Xian to be injured. One had to know that even Lu Lai couldn't break through the armor. However, someone was actually able to break through the armor's defense. Lin Xian's pupils abruptly shrank as he rapidly retreated. His heart was filled with intense shock. His opponent was actually able to cut through his red lotus armor. This was too shocking. His armor was extremely strong. Even in the battle with Lu Lai, it didn't shatter. However, his opponent had cut through his defense and injured him. Shocking, he was truly shocked. The longevity art in his body quickly circulated, and the wound on his chest stopped bleeding. However, the cold air forever shrouded everyone's hearts. Whoosh! Just as Lin Xian quickly retreated, another cold light flashed and quickly slashed at his throat. It was as if it wanted to cut off his head. Chapter 1037. A figure appeared in the sky with a machete in his hand. Like the god of death, he quickly slashed at Lin Xian. Fast, too fast. The attack was so fast that no one could react in time. In an instant, the person was already in front of Lin Xian. The machete in his hand rose and fell rapidly. The blade was as cold as autumn water. The terrifying cold light carried boundless killing intent, as if it was going to cut off Lin Xian's head. The crowd was shocked. They did not expect such a thing to happen. Just as Lin Xian had won the battle with Lu Lai, someone actually wanted to kill Lin Xian. Moreover, what made them even more shocked was that this person was too terrifying. That kind of terrifying murderous aura, that decisive move, and that one-hit kill posture showed that this person was definitely a terrifying assassin. With Lin Xian's current state and the sudden attack, there was no way he could dodge it. Morong Qingqing's expression changed drastically. She waved her jade-like hand and struck out a large purple palm. She grabbed at the sky in an attempt to stop the assassin. However, the opponent was too fast. Even if she attacked now, she would not be able to resolve the crisis. Lin Xian's eyes narrowed as well. This streak of light was far too sharp, and it had sealed off all of his paths of retreat, leaving him with nowhere to hide. Obviously, the opponent was a top-notch assassin. Moreover, everything was planned. At the critical moment, he roared and held the lone star sword tightly. He bent his body slightly and quickly stabbed out. Since he could not dodge, he would attack quickly. He would use offense as defense to resolve the crisis. Seeing this, the crowd gasped. At the same time, they were shocked by Lin Xian's decisiveness. In such a situation where death was certain, even a fifth-rank supremacy would be scared out of his wits. However, Lin Xian thought of using offense as defense to resolve the crisis. He was too bold. However, this was the only way to survive. A ray of sword light flashed. Like a shooting star, it quickly streaked across the sky. At the critical moment, Lin Xian used the heavenly meteor. Its speed was extremely fast and extremely sharp. Clang! The saber and the sword clashed and streaked across the void, creating countless sparks that illuminated the surroundings. This sword strike happened to hit the opponent's blade, causing it to deviate from its trajectory. However, the long blade still slid past Lin Xian's face, and the cold aura caused all the hair on his body to stand on end. But fortunately, he dodged this killing move. The surrounding crowd was in an uproar. They continuously cried out in alarm, because this saber strike was too dangerous and too exciting. They didn't expect that Lin Xian would be able to safely dodge the fatal blow. In the air, Lin Xian let out a long howl and quickly turned around. Sword chi surged from his hand. Then he slashed out with his sword, and a sword chi as thick as a mountain instantly slashed forward. assassin, he met another assassin. He didn't expect that the other party would dare to make a move at this time. It was obvious that the other party wanted to kill him. Therefore, he did not hesitate at all and quickly attacked, wanting to kill his opponent. Fortunately, Zero had warned him. Otherwise, he would have been in danger today. The huge blood-red sword slashed forward like a long river of blood. The other party displayed a terrifying movement technique and quickly dodged the sword. However, the two assassins were forced to reveal their figures by Lin Xian. They were two people in black. They wore bronze masks on their faces, and their faces couldn't be seen clearly. However, one could tell from their figures that they were a man and a woman. Both of them held crescent-shaped sabers in their hands. Their bodies exuded a cold, murderous aura, as if they were gods of death from hell. They didn't tangle with Lin Xian. After missing their attack, they quickly flew into the distance. As assassins, they wouldn't fight their enemies openly. However, Lin Xian sneered. This time, he didn't plan to let them go. In front of him, an ice lotus quickly bloomed. Then, he stepped on the ice lotus and quickly chased after them like a sword god. In the distance, the two assassins' figures quickly faded and then disappeared into the sky. What? They disappeared. Seeing the disappearing figure, everyone was shocked. Then they looked around and quickly searched. However, what shocked them was that they couldn't find the other party's figure at all. This made them extremely shocked. They couldn't even see the enemy's figure. How could they fight? However, when they looked at the sky, they cried out in surprise. Lin Xian's expression was cold. He flew up quickly and firmly locked in a direction. He constantly waved the lone star sword in his hand. Sword chi crisscrossed and slashed forward. What? Could it be that he can see? Everyone was shocked. The other party's speed was so fast that they couldn't even find a trace. However, it seemed that Lin Xian could see everything clearly. On the side, Shen Yulong, Morong Qingshu, and the others were also frowning. Their eyes were as cold as knives, shooting out terrifying rays of light as they stared at the void. As top experts, they could naturally see clearly. However, the other party's speed shocked them. Seeing it clearly was one thing, but being able to keep up with that kind of speed was another matter entirely. However, it was clear that not only could Lin Xian see, but he could also catch up. He used the illusory demonic steps to increase his speed to the extreme. At the same time, the wind and thunder wings on his back flapped. On the wings, strange runes kept flashing, providing a powerful force. He was like a lightning sword light, quickly chasing after the other party. With a wave of his hand, the ice lotus under his feet flew out quickly. Then it quickly grew bigger and smashed forward like a huge ice mountain. This move was so powerful that it caused the entire void to collapse, causing countless cracks to appear. At the same time, countless blue auras hung down from the ice lotus. Like a cage, they quickly rolled out in all directions. The terrifying cold air spread out, causing the speed of the two to slow down. The blue ice lotus continued to grow and smashed toward the man in black. Countless ice auras rushed toward the other party like ice dragons. The man in black couldn't dodge, and could only turn around to face it head-on. He waved the machete in his hand, and slashed out a shocking ray of light. It was like moonlight, quickly slashing toward the other party. The machete ruthlessly slashed on the blue ice lotus. A sonorous sound rang out, causing the entire world to tremble. However, this ice lotus was Lin Xian's martial soul. It was incomparably powerful. It directly sent the assassin in black flying. At the same time, endless ice energy quickly entered the assassin's body, constantly bombarding him. The assassin in black's expression changed. In an instant, the machete in his hand and his entire arm were eroded by the cold air. A thick layer of frost formed, as if it was going to freeze his entire body. With a low shout, endless rays of light burst out from his body, quickly resisting the cold air. At the same time, he quickly retreated and fled into the distance. There was no other way. Lin Xian was too powerful. That kind of attack was terrifying. He had no chance of winning if he faced it head-on. Moreover, as an assassin, he was better at moving in the dark and killing with one strike. Chapter 1038. However, he clearly underestimated Lin Xian's anger. Lin Xian was almost killed by the other party. So how could he let these people go? The wind and thunder wings on his back flapped quickly, and the power of wind and thunder poured into Lin Xian's body, allowing him to move like a gust of wind and lightning, arriving in front of the black-clothed man in an instant. The Lone Star sword in his hand emitted a cold light, and the sword blade quickly grew to a length of 100 feet, like a giant dragon, and slashed down. This sword was too terrifying, and the entire sky exploded. The huge sword blade carried an incomparably terrifying battle strength, and quickly enveloped the black-clothed man. The black-clothed man's body trembled. He was simply unable to fight against Lin Xian head-on. In the next moment, he was hit by the Ice Lotus Martial Soul, and the Earth Blood Martial Soul flew out. This was not the end. Lin Xian activated the Ice Lotus Martial Soul, and an endless amount of ice chi bloomed, forming a large ice hand that grabbed at the black-clothed man. "Speak, what organization are you from? Who the hell sent you here?" Lin Xian's voice was cold, and the killing intent on his body was not any weaker than these assassins. He was simply too angry. Looking at the movement skills of these assassins, they were the same as those who tried to assassinate him before. They should be from the same organization. It seemed like someone really wanted to kill him, and had not given up until now. The surrounding people were also shocked. They did not expect that someone would dare to kill Lin Xian. Moreover, it was during the Crimson Crescent City's banquet. The black-clothed assassin coldly harumphed, and did not say anything. Boundless saber light burst out from his body, and fused with the scimitar in his hand. He quickly slashed out, breaking the ice wall in front of him, and quickly escaping. Not answering. "Don't think about leaving today." Behind him, Lin Xian's expression was cold. He quickly waved the 100-feet-long Lone Star sword and slashed forward again. The ground cracked, and countless mountains were cut in half. The terrifying sword chi swept out in all directions, and countless cracks appeared on the ground. However, these sword chi did not directly slash at the black-clothed man, but at his side, surrounding him. Countless huge sword chi crisscrossed like a wall of sword chi, completely surrounding the black-clothed assassin. In the next moment, Lin Xian arrived in front of the black-clothed assassin. He activated his Ice Lotus Martial Soul, and quickly formed ice chains, trapping the assassin. "I'll give you one last chance. Tell me, who sent you here? Also, what organization are you from?" The black-clothed assassin was bound by the ice chains and hung in the air. The spiritual energy in his body had been completely frozen, and he had no ability to resist at all. However, even so, he still did not answer Lin Xian's interrogation. Instead, he laughed arrogantly. "Ha ha ha ha, so what if you are powerful? You will be killed by us sooner or later." The black-clothed assassin grinned. Then the spiritual energy in his body burned rapidly. His body expanded and exploded with a bang. That terrifying energy instantly rushed towards Lin Xian. On the other hand, Lin Xian snorted coldly. He swung the Lone Star sword in his hand, and slashed out countless sharp sword chi, completely annihilating the violent energy. Then his face turned completely gloomy. The assassin would rather self-destruct than reveal any information. This made his heart extremely gloomy. It seemed that the assassin's organization must be extremely strict and mysterious. Otherwise, such a situation would not have happened. Self-destruct, right? Very well. I don't believe that you can keep self-destructing. Lin Xian's cold eyes swept across the area like lightning. When the surrounding people saw this, they were dumbfounded. This assassin was too terrifying. He took the initiative to self-destruct, and did not answer any questions. Anyone who encountered such a situation would be helpless. Morong Qingcheng's face was also gloomy. Her eyes flickered as she looked at the aftermath of the self-destruction, and fell into deep thought. There were not many organizations that could send out such a powerful assassin, and even fewer that could act so decisively and ruthlessly. As far as I know, only the Chasing Assassin organization would use such methods. Lin Xian, they are very likely to be from the Chasing Assassin organization. Morong Qingcheng quickly reminded him. Chasing Assassin. Hearing this, everyone cried out in alarm. All of them had terrified expressions. Of course, they had heard of this assassin organization, because it was a very terrifying organization. They were simply a group of demons, because anyone who was targeted by them would eventually die. Just by hearing the name of the assassin organization, one could tell that the chasing assassin organization would not give up until they killed their target. Once, a peerless expert at the 8th heaven of the Venerable Realm was targeted by the chasing assassin organization and issued a kill order. At that time, everyone thought that it was impossible to accomplish because the 8th heaven of the Venerable Realm was too terrifying. The 8th heaven powerhouse was even more disdainful. He was powerful and did not fear any assassin organization at all. However, in the end he still died. His blood dyed the sky as he was hacked into dozens of pieces. Because of that battle, the chasing assassin organization sent out 49 top-notch assassins to chase after the 8th heaven of the Venerable Realm and finally killed him. After that battle, the chasing assassin organization was completely remembered by everyone, because no one who was targeted by them could survive, including peerless experts. And now, such a terrifying assassin organization was actually chasing after Lin Xian. This was too shocking. Everyone looked at Lin Xian with different expressions, because they knew that Lin Xian would not have any way to survive after being targeted by the chasing assassin organization. Even if he could escape this time, he would not be able to stop the next assassination, endlessly and without rest until death. Hearing this news, Lin Xian's face turned gloomy. He did not expect such a terrifying organization to come after him. At the same time, his heart turned cold. Who was so vicious to issue such a wanted order? His eyes were cold, and his gaze was like lightning as he quickly scanned the surroundings, trying to find the other assassin. However, the other party had completely merged into the void and hid his body. He did not even release a trace of his aura. The sky was terrifyingly quiet for a moment. Only the terrifying smell of blood quietly spread. Did he escape? Everyone was puzzled. They looked around, but they could not see anyone at all. He should have left. If these assassins don't kill him, they will escape thousands of miles away. They will not have a direct confrontation with Lin Xian. However, this was also why these people were so terrifying. Because you would never know when they would target you. Perhaps when you were sleeping, you would not be able to see the next day's sun. These people were like shadows that followed the body until they successfully killed the target. The group of people discussed spiritedly. Their nerves were very serious. Morong Qingshu also sighed. Many of the targets targeted by the chasing assassin organization were not killed. Instead, they were forced to break down by the tense atmosphere and chose to die. As for Shen Yulong and the 6th grade pill inscription master, they sneered. This was undoubtedly good news for them. Originally, Lin Xian's talent made them fearful. Now someone had come to kill Lin Xian. This made them very happy. Moreover, the one chasing after Lin Xian was actually the chasing assassin organization. This made them even more excited, because they knew that Lin Xian was really dead this time. Chapter 1039. However, just when everyone thought that the assassination was over, there was another change in the sky. 4 assassins suddenly appeared from 4 different directions and quickly rushed toward Lin Xian. Each of them held a long saber that was curved like a crescent moon. They quickly slashed out cold lights, completely sealing off Lin Xian's escape route. 4 black-clothed assassins appeared from 4 different directions and rushed toward Lin Xian, completely sealing off Lin Xian's escape route. These 4 people were abnormally powerful. None of them was weaker than the black-clothed assassin from before. Back then, that black-clothed assassin had almost killed Lin Xian, so one could see how terrifying he was. With 4 assassins of the same level attacking at the same time, he was in an extremely dangerous situation. Even a 5th heaven venerable would be killed in an instant. The others were even more shocked. They originally thought that the matter was over, but they did not expect such a shocking change to happen. It was obvious that the Chasing Life organization was determined to kill Lin Xian. Otherwise, they would not have sent so many experts. There was no suspense in this situation. No matter who the 4 peerless assassins faced, they would definitely die. No matter how strong Lin Xian was, he could not escape. Therefore, in everyone's opinion, Lin Xian was dead for sure this time. There was no chance for him to escape. However, Lin Xian did not show much panic. Instead, a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. This was because he had been warned by Zero and was already prepared for this attack. Therefore, he was not surprised by the sudden appearance of the 4 assassins. The longevity secret art in his body quickly circulated. He frantically absorbed the surrounding spiritual energy. At the same time, he took out the red lotus gloves and wore them on his fists. Facing 4 peerless assassins, he had 2 cards to deal with them. One was the Great Dragon Sword Soul, and the other was the red lotus gloves. However, he did not want to expose the Great Dragon Sword Soul in front of everyone for the time being. So he took out the red lotus gloves. Another reason was that although the red lotus gloves consumed a lot of spiritual energy, it was still better than the Great Dragon Sword Soul. Moreover, it only consumed spiritual energy, unlike the Great Dragon Sword Soul, which consumed spiritual energy and soul power. Moreover, Lin Xian believed that the red lotus gloves could solve the problem at hand. Lin Xian coldly snorted as the bright red gloves covered his fists. He quickly swung his fists. This punch was aimed at an assassin in front of him. Pung! A terrifying red fist shadow gushed out like a red savage beast. It was extremely terrifying. The assassin in front couldn't dodge at all. In an instant he was hit by the red fist shadow. Then, his body split open and turned into a bloody mist. From the punch to the black-clothed assassin exploding, the entire process happened in an instant. This kind of attack power was too terrifying, directly shocking everyone. Even the assassins in the other 3 directions were frowning. They didn't expect their target to be so terrifying that he could easily kill their companion. However, the 3 of them did not stop. Instead, they charged towards Lin Xian at an even faster speed. They didn't believe that Lin Xian could kill all 3 of them at the same time. As long as one of them made a move, the other party would definitely be killed. That way their mission would be completed. Therefore, the 3 of them shouted coldly and sped up again. The 3 full moon scimitars danced in the air, and a terrifying blade light swept in all directions. Although they saw their companion die with their own eyes, it didn't affect them at all. The 3 attacks were still very fierce, slashing towards Lin Xian's vital points. It had to be said that these 3 assassins were very powerful. Moreover, it could be seen how terrifying this group was. It was no wonder that everyone's expression changed when they heard this name. Lin Xian immediately snorted when he sensed the terrifying killing intent from the other 3 directions. With his current strength, he probably couldn't swing the red lotus fist 3 times. Therefore, he had to kill them in one hit. Otherwise, his situation would become dangerous. However, under normal circumstances, it was obviously impossible to kill 3 peerless assassins. Even if he had the red lotus gloves, he had to swing it 3 times. Not to mention whether Lin Xian could swing it 3 times. The problem of time alone couldn't be solved. Because the 3 of them were too fast, he probably only had the chance to swing it once. However, Lin Xian wasn't worried at all. Instead, he smiled coldly. This was because the red lotus gloves weren't his only trump card. Circulating the spiritual power in his body, Lin Xian quickly performed the Blood Shadow Doppelganger from the Blood Sword Inheritance. He used all of his chi and blood to create an identical doppelganger. Then his real body performed the heaven-changing technique and quickly hid in the void. Lin Xian used the 2 ultimate techniques at the same time, causing him to disappear into the void in an instant. His doppelganger remained where he was, acting as bait. Lin Xian was very confident, because both the Blood Shadow Doppelganger and the heaven-changing technique were very mysterious. He believed that these assassins wouldn't be able to discover them. As expected, the 3 assassins didn't notice anything unusual and continued to rush over. The 3 of them were very fast, so they arrived beside the doppelganger in an instant. Then the 3 scimitars quickly slashed down. One of them slashed towards Lin Xian's chest, another at his throat, and the third at his head. These 3 blades were all aimed at Lin Xian's vital points. They wanted to kill him in one hit. Puff! The blades slashed across his body and blood splattered. The smell of blood quickly spread. Seeing the blood, the 3 assassins in black revealed cruel smiles. The people below were shocked. They didn't expect that Lin Xian didn't dodge, and was still killed. Morong Qingshi's eyes flickered. He didn't say anything, but he was obviously relieved. Shen Yulong and the 6th grade alchemy master revealed cruel smiles. Lin Xian's death was only beneficial to them. Moreover, the threat that Lin Xian posed to them while he was still alive was simply too great, causing them to be extremely fearful. Now that Lin Xian was killed by the assassins of the life-chasing organization, they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. On the other hand, Morong Qingchen screamed as her expression changed drastically. Her body slowed down as she tried to rush up as well. This time, the dark red dragon was quick. He stopped her and quickly transmitted a message. "Little girl, don't worry. That's just a doppelganger." Hearing the dark red dragon's explanation, Morong Qingchen was relieved. However, her beautiful eyes were still staring at the sky. In the sky, the doppelganger quickly split open and blood splattered everywhere. The 3 assassins in black stood in front of the doppelganger and looked at the scene expressionlessly. In the next moment, the void above them suddenly fluctuated. A figure appeared above them and quickly punched. "What? Lin Xian? Isn't he dead?" Seeing this scene, everyone was completely stunned. They didn't expect that Lin Xian was still alive. Moreover, he appeared above the 3 assassins in black. But if Lin Xian is alive, who is the dead one? Everyone was stunned. They couldn't understand because the sky was filled with blood. Chapter 1040. Damn it, it's a clone. Let's go. One of them bellowed and quickly turned around. The other 2 felt their scalps tingle as they fled into the distance. "You want to leave? Don't you think it's too late? Since you dared to kill me, you can all stay here." Lin Xian sneered, and then the terrifying red lotus fist shadow quickly fell. Boom! The sky was filled with red light, and a terrifying power surged down, piercing through the void. The sky was like a wave that kept shaking. In the end, the 3 assassins did not manage to escape, and were all blasted into a bloody mist by the punch. After killing the 3 assassins, Lin Xian had completely broken through the situation of certain death. He stood in the void and looked around coldly. At the same time, an ice lotus appeared above his head and quickly absorbed the spiritual energy in the surroundings to replenish his exhausted physical strength. Looking at this scene, everyone was shocked. It couldn't be helped, it was too shocking. The 4 top experts had used their strongest killing move to kill Lin Xian, but they were all killed by Lin Xian in the blink of an eye. Even a 5th Heaven Honorable Realm expert could not do this, but Lin Xian did it. One had to know that Lin Xian was only a 4th Heaven Honorable Realm expert, but he relied on his powerful methods and trump cards to kill the 4 top assassins. This could no longer be described as shocking, it could be called a miracle. After dealing with the 4 assassins, Lin Xian stood in the void. The ice lotus martial soul above his head spun quickly, absorbing the spiritual energy in the surroundings to replenish his exhausted physical strength. He was not careless, but his expression was solemn because the battle was not over yet. He had already killed 5 of the assassins who came to kill him, but there was still 1 assassin left, the female assassin who had almost pierced his heart. At this moment, the female assassin was trapped by the array set up by the dark red divine dragon and could not escape for the time being. However, it seemed that the array would not be able to trap her for long, and she would probably break out soon. However, this period of time was enough for Lin Xian to recover his physical strength. The black-clothed female assassin naturally knew what was happening in the outside world, and her face became very ugly. With a shout, she waved the scimitar in her hand and quickly slashed out a blade light. The saber chi was shocking. It tore through the sky and slashed forward rapidly. She didn't hold back this time. Instead, she used her full strength. She had no choice but to fight for her life. Lin Xian had killed her companion, so he would definitely make a move on her in the next moment. This time, they had misjudged the target's strength and caused a huge loss. Therefore, no matter what, she had to send the news back. In the sky, the horrifying saber radiance slashed on the array and tore a crack in it. Seeing this scene, the black-clothed female assassin's face lit up. Her body turned into a ray of light and instantly rushed out. We've finally gotten rid of this damned formation. The female assassin turned around and glared at the dark red divine dragon with cold eyes. This abominable red snake was not very strong, but its methods were extremely strange. Especially the formation it had set up. It was actually able to trap her. This caused her to be extremely shocked. One had to know that her movement technique was extremely strange, and she did not fear any punishment formation or illusory formation. However, this movement technique was ineffective in front of her opponent. If it wasn't for her powerful strength, she would not have been able to break out of the formation. However, before she could catch her breath, she was greeted by a stunning saber radiance. The saber chi was like a rainbow. It shook the sky and quickly slashed towards her. The horrifying saber radiance spread downwards and instantly tore the ground apart. A mountain peak was cut in half. Feeling the shocking saber chi, the black-clothed female assassin's expression changed drastically. She quickly used her movement technique and shuttled through the sky like a fish. At the same time, she waved the scimitar in her hand and slashed out a crescent saber radiance to resist the saber radiance. The sound of an intense collision was heard and sparks flew everywhere. It was as if two huge metal mountains had collided. The surrounding people's eardrums trembled and blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. This attack was too terrifying. Even the aftershock was not something they could withstand. After the attack, the black-clothed female assassin screamed and was sent flying by the sharp saber chi. Her eyes were filled with shock. However, in the next moment, a sneer appeared at the corner of her mouth. With the help of this horrifying force, she used a very strange movement technique and quickly escaped into the distance. It seemed that her goal was very clear. She did not want to fight with Lin Xian, but to quickly leave. However, Lin Xian was clearly enraged. He did not give her a chance to leave. The ice lotus under his feet spun. Streaks of icy chi surged and quickly merged into the sky. Then in the distant sky, countless icicles quickly formed and intercepted the black-clothed female assassin. At the same time, Lin Xian used the illusory demonic steps. Together with the thunderstorm wings behind him, he quickly chased after her. The sky trembled. Countless icicles formed in the sky like the teeth of a ferocious beast. They were very sharp and pierced towards the female assassin. These icicles were very terrifying. Moreover, there were many of them. They were densely packed and filled the entire sky. However, the black-clothed female assassin's figure fluttered like a ghost. She quickly flickered and dodged the icicles one after another. Then, her body gradually faded, as if she was going to disappear between heaven and earth. Everyone watched in a daze. Even Shen Yulong and Morong Qingshu had grave expressions. It was because the opponent's movement technique was too strange. Not only was her speed extremely fast, but it was also unexpected. Every time, she was able to narrowly avoid the attacks. This was definitely not something that could be done with an ordinary movement technique. Rumor has it that the reason why the life-chasing organization is so terrifying is not only because of their decisive killing method, but also because they seem to have grasped an extremely powerful movement technique. That movement technique allows them to not be afraid of being besieged. It increases their chances of escaping with their lives, and also greatly increases their chances of assassination. I have only heard of it before. Now it seems that the rumors are true. This movement technique is probably an earth-tier martial art. Morong Qingshu sighed. Perhaps only an earth-tier movement technique could achieve such an effect. Lin Xian's expression was also grave. He realized that the opponent's movement technique was definitely not weaker than the illusory demonic steps. It was obviously an earth-tier movement technique. Fortunately, he also had an earth-tier movement technique. Moreover, he had the assistance of the thunderstorm wings, which allowed his speed to reach an unimaginable level. Otherwise, if it was someone else, they would probably not be able to catch up to this black-clothed female assassin. With a cold snort, Lin Xian opened his 5 fingers and grabbed forward. The concept of wind merged with the ice and quickly attacked, shattering the entire void. At the same time, he waved his long sword and urged the great dragon sword soul to form an indestructible sword chi, which quickly slashed forward. Lin Xian used the spring sword for this sword. The sword light was like a continuous spring rain pitter-patter, completely covering the entire void. Even if the opponent's movement technique was strange, it was impossible for her to ignore this kind of attack. As expected, under Lin Xian's crazy attack, the black-clothed female assassin was shaken out of her body and was forced to retreat. Chapter 1041. Her opponent's methods were too terrifying, especially the ice and sword qi. Not only did the terrifying ice obstruct her, but the cold qi also froze her body, causing her movement technique to be much slower than usual. The sword qi was even more terrifying. Every strike could split mountains, split rivers, and shatter the void. She did not dare to resist at all. That was because she knew that as long as she was hit, she would have no chance of survival. The sword qi in the sky pierced through the clouds, and the entire sky was filled with waves of sword light. The black-clothed female assassin was like a black boat, shuttling through the sword light that filled the sky. She was in danger of capsizing at any time. On the other hand, Lin Xian was incomparably powerful. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and sword qi surrounded his body. He kept waving the Lone Star sword in his hand, and streaks of shocking sword qi swept in all directions. He relied on his powerful attack power to completely suppress the black-clothed female assassin. If not for her strange movement technique and speed, the battle would have been over long ago. However, no matter how fast she was, Lin Xian was confident that he could kill her. He waved the Lone Star sword in his hand again, and the sword qi in the sky interweaved to form a powerful sword net that enveloped the black-clothed female assassin. This time, the black-clothed female assassin finally had nowhere to hide. She let out a delicate cry, and her body emitted a sharp saber light. She was like a peerless wild saber, and she became one with the machete in her hand as she quickly slashed out. The stunning slash was very terrifying, and it was enough to kill a fifth heaven venerable. However, in the face of Lin Xian's powerful sword net, everything was futile. The two collided, and the entire void whistled. Countless rays of light splattered, and it was a terrifying scene. However, Lin Xian's sword qi was too sharp. Each of them contained the power of the dragon sword soul, and they were incomparably sharp. The sword net formed by countless sword qi was like a heavenly sword, and it directly shattered the saber light. Boom! In an instant, the black-clothed female assassin was severely injured, and she was sent flying while vomiting blood. The machete in her hand also shattered into countless pieces and scattered in the void. Dragon capturing hand. Lin Xian's black hair fluttered, and he stretched out his palm like a fiend god. Spiritual energy surged, forming two true dragon phantoms that roared ferociously. In an instant, the true dragon's palm bound the black-clothed female assassin's body like a chain from hell, trapping her firmly. On the other hand, Lin Xian stepped into the air like a shooting star and quickly arrived in front of his opponent. The Ice Lotus martial spirit rotated and formed countless icy qi that crazily rushed into the assassin's body. It froze her spiritual qi and prevented her from exploding. Then his soul circulated wildly. Like an invisible hand, it quickly grabbed the other party's head, intending to forcefully search his soul. Lin Xian knew that no matter how he asked, the other party would definitely not reveal any information. Rather than wasting time, he might as well search for it himself. Soul searching was a rather cruel method, and those who had their souls searched would usually end up in a very miserable state. On the other hand, if the fox hunter's soul power was weaker than the other party's, it was very likely that he would suffer a backlash and his life would be in danger. Therefore, most people wouldn't use such a method unless they were extremely confident in themselves, or if the difference in soul force between the two parties was too great, then they would use such a method. Lin Xian's soul power was heaven-defying, comparable to a seventh-grade alchemist. He was confident that his soul power was superior to his opponent's. The other party had tried to take his life several times, which made him really angry. Therefore, he used soul searching. A terrifying soul power entered the other party's mind and quickly searched. Immediately, the black-clothed female assassin revealed a ferocious expression and let out a miserable cry. Lin Xian was expressionless as he continued to use his soul power. In the next moment, his expression changed greatly. The thunderstorm wings on his back flapped rapidly, and countless strange runes bloomed. He turned into a ray of light, and instantly flew into the distance. As for the black-clothed female assassin, her body blossomed with light, and exploded once again. Rumble! The entire void trembled, and a huge black hole quickly appeared. It was pitch black and terrifying, and everything around it was completely shattered. In the end, nothing was left. Lin Xian, on the other hand, looked ahead with a gloomy expression. This time, he had sealed the other party's spiritual qi so that she couldn't explode. However, he didn't expect that there was a special seal in the other party's mind that sealed her spiritual qi. However, when Lin Xian used brute force to assist in the search, he triggered the restriction and caused it to self-destruct. He knew that this was a powerful method set up by the other party's organization. The purpose was to prevent someone from soul-searching and revealing the organization's secrets. However, all of this made Lin Xian's expression even more gloomy. The other party was decisive and ruthless, and they were extremely thorough. They didn't leave any clues at all. This was definitely a terrifying opponent. Moreover, the other party was proficient in assassination and hid in the dark, making it impossible for him to find her. He could only passively defend. It could be said that this caused a lot of trouble for Lin Xian. However, the others didn't think so. They looked at the sky and were completely stunned. This female assassin was clearly the leader of this assassination operation. Regardless of whether it was her combat strength or movement technique, she was far superior to the others. Even so, she was still captured by Lin Xian and exploded, leaving not even a bone behind. 6 peerless assassins had used the best opportunity to form the strongest killing blow. However, they had failed. Not only did they fail to kill Lin Xian, but they were all killed. This was probably something that had never happened before. One had to know that Lin Xian wasn't an 8th Heaven Venerable Realm expert. His cultivation was only at the 4th Heaven Venerable Realm. Moreover, when he fought with Lu Lai, he used all of his trump cards and consumed a lot of energy. It could be said that he was at his weakest. Even so, he still killed 6 peerless assassins. No one had ever heard of such heaven-defying combat strength. Was he really only at the 4th Heaven Venerable Realm? Why do I feel like he's a peerless old demon? Many people looked at Lin Xian, their hearts trembling. Morong Qingshu was shocked. At this moment, he had already listed Lin Xian as the most dangerous person. If nothing unexpected happened, he definitely wouldn't provoke him in the future. As for Shen Yulong and the 6th grade alchemist, their faces darkened. They were extremely unsightly. Originally, they were rejoicing in his misfortune, thinking that Lin Xian was finished and would definitely be killed by the pursuing assassins. This way, they wouldn't have a huge worry in their hearts. However, the result exceeded their expectations. Not only did Lin Xian not die, he even killed all 6 peerless experts, completing an impossible reversal. All of this had completely stunned them. In addition, the relationship between the two sides made their faces even more gloomy. This was definitely their greatest enemy. In the distance, the big shots were also shocked. They originally thought that Lin Xian was on the same level as them because of his special status. However, after seeing this battle, their thoughts were completely overturned. This kind of strength, this kind of combat strength, he was definitely the peak existence of the younger generation. In addition, with the support of the immortal Martial Academy, Lin Xian's future achievements wouldn't be much weaker than young Master Ling Feng. In the future, another peerless venerable would appear in the Blood Realm. Chapter 1042. Lin Xian had killed Lu Lai and offended the Lu family. He had also angered Child Ling Feng. Child Ling Feng would not let him off easily. Not only that, but there was also a powerful assassin organization after him. Lin Xian was in a very dangerous situation. Everyone looked at the young figure in the sky with complicated expressions. Lin Xian's eyes were gloomy as he fell into deep thought. In the sky, Lin Xian frowned and fell into deep thought. In the end, who was it that actually invited such a terrifying assassin organization like Zhui Ming to kill him? He was very confused. He guessed that it was someone from the Vientiane auction, but he had no evidence. However, whether it was the Vientiane auction or not, he had become enemies with Child Ling Feng's organization after this battle. He shook his head slightly. He could only leave this matter to Yu Fei. The only thing he could do was increase his strength, so that the other party would not dare to make a move. Today he had killed a rank 6 assassin. It seemed shocking, but only he knew how dangerous it was. If it was not for Zero's warning, he would not have known about the assassins in advance, let alone dodging their fatal blow. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian's desire to increase his strength grew. However, the most important thing now was to recover from his injuries. Who knew if there were other assassins nearby? Fortunately, Lin Xian still had Zero as his trump card. Other than him, no one in the organization knew about it. This was also the reason why he could fight against them. With Zero's warning, Lin Xian's life was not in danger for the time being. However, he swore that one day, he would find the mastermind behind this and kill him. This included the organization. Anyone who had hunted him would pay the price in blood. With a wave of his hand, Lin Xian summoned his Ice Lotus martial soul. He then sat cross-legged on it, and quickly circulated the longevity incantation to absorb the surrounding spiritual energy, to heal his injuries, and the consumed spiritual energy. This battle was very difficult. First, he fought with Lu Lai and used all his trump cards. Then, he faced a terrifying assassin and almost lost his life. It could be said that each time was extremely dangerous. The slightest carelessness would have killed him. However, although the battle was fierce, Lin Xian had also benefited greatly from it. Fighting with these top experts had increased his combat experience once again, and his understanding of the illusory demonic step had deepened by another level. The other party's ghostly movement technique had given him endless enlightenment. After this, his movement technique would be able to reach the next level. Quickly circulating the art of longevity, Lin Xian absorbed the surrounding spiritual energy to repair the damage to his body. Not long after, he opened his eyes. His injuries and strength had already recovered by about 70 to 80%. His battle prowess had also recovered. Lin Xian had to maintain a strong fighting strength in order to deal with all kinds of sudden situations. The other party was a terrifying assassin organization. They might come to assassinate him at any time. Lin Xian slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and opened his eyes. His gaze was like a sword beam, incomparably sharp and piercing through the void. Feeling that gaze, the surrounding people were shocked. Their eyelids twitched, and fear rose in their hearts. After witnessing Lin Xian's means, they were in awe of Lin Xian. They no longer dared to mock him like before. Now no one dared to provoke him. Even the Shen family's disciples became quiet. They looked at Lin Xian, with a trace of deep fear in their eyes. Seeing that Lin Xian had recovered, Ancestor Qi Yu and the others also walked up to him. "Little friend Lin, you have great means. You killed 6 peerless assassins by yourself. Your strength is really impressive. I'm afraid there aren't many people in the younger generation who can defeat you. Senior, you're too polite." Lin Xian shook his head slightly. These people were old monsters who had lived for hundreds of years. In front of them, he would not put on an arrogant attitude. Seeing that Lin Xian was not arrogant, Ancestor Qi Yu and the others nodded slightly. However, they still reminded him. However, he still had to be careful of the Chasing Life organization. After all, they were a terrifying assassin organization and were well known in the blood field. He had to be careful. Lin Xian nodded, indicating that he understood. Next, Ancestor Qi Yu and the others invited Lin Xian back to Crimson Crescent City. As the birthday banquet was not over yet, Lin Xian could not refuse. He followed Ancestor Qi Yu and the others back. Night fell. The sky was incomparably dark and countless stars twinkled in the sky. In the distance, thousands of beasts roared in the mountains. The sound was terrifying. However, Crimson Crescent City was brightly lit. It was a lively scene with singing and dancing. Lin Xian drank a few cups of wine with a group of important people in the hall. Then he found an excuse to come out. The other party was a bunch of older people. He had nothing to say there. He might as well come out and eat to his heart's content. After all, The task of inviting them had been completed. However, when the younger generation warriors saw Lin Xian come out of the hall, they were stunned. Then the entire place fell silent. Even the voices were much softer. Although Lin Xian had a smile on his face and looked harmless to humans and animals, when they thought of the battle during the day, they felt a chill run down their spines. Therefore, when they faced Lin Xian, they no longer had the confidence they had before. Instead, they were filled with respect and fear. At this moment, the disciples of Crimson Crescent City lowered their heads like docile kittens. They no longer dared to cause trouble for Lin Xian. Looking at this scene, Lin Xian rubbed his nose helplessly. It seemed that the battle during the day had really frightened these people. Shaking his head slightly, he walked calmly and came to Morong Qingqing's side. Morong Qingqing had a faint smile on her face. Her gaze was like a gentle hand caressing her cheeks. She snuggled up to Lin Xian, and the two of them chatted nonstop. The dark red divine dragon and the snow-white little monkey ate and drank wildly. They were very happy. The surrounding people looked bitter. They did not even dare to breathe loudly when they saw this scene. The banquet didn't end until very late. Everyone was drunk, and they all left one after another. On the second day, Lin Xian stayed with Morong Qingqing for another day. He did not leave until the third day. Morong Qingqing did not follow him back. Instead, she stayed in Crimson Crescent City. It seemed that she had something else to do. Lin Xian went on his way alone. He did not return to the academy. Instead, he flew in the direction of Windy City. After these few days, he should have gathered all the materials he needed. He had to seize the time and let the dark red divine dragon set up the sturdiest formation to defend the entire auction. Otherwise, if something really happened during the auction, it would be a big joke. If that really happened, the auction would not be able to continue in the future. The Immortal Martial Auction was backed by the Immortal Martial Academy. Ordinary people would not dare to cause trouble here. However, with young Master Ling Feng's strength, it might not be the same. Especially those people from the Wanxiang auction. They would definitely come back to cause trouble. Moreover, the life-chasing organization would not let this matter rest. Chapter 1043. Therefore, he decided that when the first auction was held, he would definitely request for a few powerful elders from the academy to oversee it. He would definitely not allow anyone to cause trouble at the auction. If someone dared to cause trouble at his place, he wouldn't mind letting them know the meaning of regret. Even if it was young Master Ling Feng's men, they were no exception. After a few days, Lin Xian returned to Winseek City. Winseek City was bustling with activity. Various clans were busy building the Immortal Martial Academy. Under such efficient operations, the Immortal Martial Auction was completed at an extremely fast speed. Currently, more than half of it was completed, and only the final decorations were left. As for the materials that Lin Xian requested, Wang Li had also finished collecting them. In other words, it was time to inscribe the inscription formation. As for the matter of inscribing the formation, Lin Xian instructed the dark red divine dragon to inscribe the best defensive formation. As for him, he came to a quiet pavilion and prepared to organize his harvest this time. In this life and death battle, he had gained a lot of experience and inspiration. Therefore, he needed to go into seclusion to quickly absorb and comprehend these things. Lin Xian's soul revolved, constantly simulating and refining his movement technique, wanting to reach the next level. This closed-door training lasted for 3 days. Lin Xian had been simulating in his mind. Finally, he was able to simulate it. His Earth-class movement technique, Illusory Demon Steps, had reached a new level, reaching a whole new realm. With a smile on his face, Lin Xian let out a long sigh of relief. Then, with a flip of his palm, he took out a storage ring. This was a brand new blue storage ring. On top of it, there were exquisite carvings. The entire ring emitted a gentle light, like the stars in the sky. This storage ring used to be Lu Lai's storage ring. After Lin Xian killed Lu Lai, he directly took the storage ring from him. According to his speculation, there must be something good in this storage ring. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian used his soul force and probed inside. The first thing that entered his eyes was a crescent-shaped bow. It was incomparably black and emitted a savage aura. With a thought, Lin Xian opened his palm and took the black bow into his hand. This black bow was the Black Dragon Bow. Back then, Lu Lai had used this Black Dragon Bow to fight Lin Xian to a standstill. Its power was not at all inferior to the Lone Star Sword. It was rumored that the Black Flood Dragon Bow was made from a real flood dragon. It could be said to be incomparably ferocious. Back then, everyone's evaluation of the Black Flood Dragon Bow was that it was absolutely not inferior to a half-Earth step artifact. Looking at it now, it was indeed true. Lin Xian gently rubbed the Black Dragon Bow with his fingers and nodded in satisfaction. In terms of power, the Black WRM Bow wasn't inferior to his Lone Star Sword. Moreover, the Black WRM Bow was made from a real WRM, and it carried a monstrous baleful aura, causing this treasure to become a true weapon of mass destruction. However, the Black Dragon Bow had already been reserved by the Dark Red Divine Dragon. Ruffian Dragon said that it was his reward for inscribing a defensive spell formation. In response, Lin Xian was very generous and nodded in agreement. As long as he finished inscribing the spell formation, the Black WRM Bow would belong to the Dark Red Divine Dragon. Although the Black WRM Bow was good, it wasn't a treasure. Whether it was the Lone Star Sword or the Red Lotus Gloves, they weren't inferior to the Black WRM Bow. Therefore, this treasure wouldn't be of much use in his hands, so he might as well give it to the Dark Red Divine Dragon. After putting the Black WRM Bow aside, Lin Xian became excited again. This time he quickly searched for something. Back then, Lu Lai had been able to engage in a fierce battle with him because he had countless trump cards. And the most shocking one was the 9 turns Nether Mantra. That was a true Earth-rank martial art, and its power was unimaginable. Lin Xian had 2 Earth-rank martial arts, so he knew the power of Earth-rank martial arts very well. This made him even more tempted. However, after searching the entire storage ring, he couldn't find the 9 turns Nether Mantra. This made him very disappointed. However, after calming down and thinking carefully, he finally understood. The 9 turns Nether Mantra was imparted to Lu Lai by young Master Ling Feng. He couldn't have given such a precious item directly, and could only have passed it down verbally. Therefore, it was normal that Lu Lai didn't have the 9 turns Nether Mantra. Thinking of this, Lin Xian shook his head slightly, then calmed himself down and searched the other items in the storage ring. Other than the 9 turns Nether Mantra, there was another item that made Lin Xian very excited. However, he didn't need to think to know that Lu Lai didn't have the relevant information. That item was definitely in the hands of young Master Ling Feng. He was worthy of being called the top of the younger generation in the continent. He actually had such a heaven-defying treasure in his hands. This made Lin Xian very envious. He quickly sent a voice transmission to ask the artifact's spirit of the 10,000 years cauldron. 0. Do you know about the indestructible golden pill? Yes, it's a famous pill from ancient times. It's rumored that consuming one can achieve an indestructible golden body, and even a drop of blood can be reborn. So magical, Lin Xian's pupils shrank, and his breathing became hurried. Then do you know the pill formula for the indestructible golden pill? No. Zero's answer was very straightforward. Even in ancient times, that kind of thing was extremely precious, and was only in the hands of a very small number of giants. I don't know the pill formula. However, as far as I know, the alchemy faction seems to have the pill formula for the indestructible golden pill. Alchemy faction. Hearing this, Lin Xian was shocked. It was the alchemy faction again. This alchemy faction must be very powerful. However, what made him even more shocked was that young Master Ling Feng actually had such a heaven-defying pill formula. He told Zero about his doubts. After hearing this, Zero was silent for a moment, then slowly said, "It's nothing. If the other party has the indestructible golden pill, there are 2 possibilities. One is that the other party is related to the alchemy faction, and the other is that he dug it out from an ancient ruin. Of course, there's also the last possibility, which is that this isn't the indestructible golden pill at all. It's just what the other party called the indestructible golden pill, or it's incomplete." because if it's the real indestructible golden pill, the effect would be even more terrifying. Of course, it's not that the other party isn't capable enough to brew a complete one. That's all the information I can provide. As for what exactly it is, you'll have to find out for yourself. Hearing this, Lin Xian nodded. However, he knew that no matter what the reason was, the other party had a miraculous Dan that could instantly heal a severely injured martial artist. He had personally witnessed the effect of this Dan. Therefore, there was no doubt about it. It seems like this young master Ling Feng really was a great enemy. Next, Lin Xian checked the storage ring again. He found that the treasures inside were extremely plentiful. Techniques, dawn treasures. Everything he needed. There were also many valuable spiritual medicines. It could be said that this was a small treasure trove. Lin Xian divided up the dawn and techniques, and prepared to give them to Wang Li, Dong Fangxiong, and the others. Right now he needed a strong support force. Therefore, he wouldn't be stingy when it came to resources. As for the spiritual medicines, he kept them for himself. This time's harvest made his storage of spiritual medicines rich again. Chapter 1044. Putting away the storage ring, Lin Xian closed his eyes again and began to adjust his condition. Half a day later, he adjusted his condition to its peak and slowly opened his eyes. This time, he was going to refine pills. This time, not only did he go to Crimson Crescent City, but he also went to a strange place and obtained a spirit fruit. It was a spirit fruit that had been lost in the outside world for a long time, and it was at least 3,000 years old. Therefore, Lin Xian planned to use the spirit fruit as the main ingredient and combine it with other spirit herbs to refine a pot of spirit wine. After communicating with Zero, Lin Xian quickly activated his soul power and summoned the Thousand Beast Cauldron. Then, with a flick of his finger, a sparkling and translucent spirit fruit appeared in the air, emitting a rich fragrance. With the Thousand Beast Cauldron, Lin Shui's efficiency in refining pills and spirit wine greatly increased, and the results were also much better than before. Therefore, a pot of top-grade spirit wine was successfully refined in a short time. After drinking a cup, Lin Xian closed his eyes and began to cultivate the immortality chant, refining the energy contained within. Just like that, time slowly passed, and another 5 days passed. The dark red dragon rushed over and shouted excitedly, "Little Xian, the formation is complete." Hearing that, Lin Xian stopped cultivating and opened his eyes, a smile appearing on his face. It was finally complete. These defensive formations would be the greatest protection of the immortal martial auction. With a whoosh, a red light flashed, and the dark red divine dragon flew in from the outside. It came to Lin Xian's side and quickly shouted, "The formation is complete. Hurry up and give me the black dragon bow." "No hurry, I want to check the formation," Lin Xian said with a smile. "Fuck kid, you dare not believe me." The dark red dragon jumped up after hearing that. "I used to believe you, but the last time you teleported me to such a dangerous place, I'll check it myself." "What do you know?" the dark red dragon said. "Spatial teleportation is the most profound teleportation formation. A little mistake is nothing. You have to know that other people's teleportation arrays take years, or even decades to complete. For me to complete this kind of teleportation in 1 or 2 days is already a heaven-defying feat. Furthermore, the formation we're setting up this time is a defensive formation. I can inscribe a defensive formation even with my eyes closed. How dare you doubt me?" The dark red divine dragon was extremely displeased. However, under Lin Xian's insistence, the dark red divine dragon accompanied him to take a look at the defensive array formation. In the end, Lin Xian nodded in satisfaction and handed the black dragon bow to the dark red divine dragon. It had to be said that the formations were simply too perfect. Even a 5th or 6th heavenly layer venerable realm expert would find it difficult to break through them. Even if the people from the Wanxiang auction and the Lu clan came to cause trouble, he was confident that he could defeat them. However, unless it was absolutely necessary, he did not want to fight during the auction. Because no matter who won or lost, once a conflict occurred during the auction, it would definitely cause a great impact on the auction's reputation. This was something that Lin Xian was extremely unwilling to see. Therefore, he prepared to return to the academy and request for some powerful elders to oversee the auction. Of course, all of this would have to wait until the immortal martial auction was completed. In the following period of time, Lin Xian stayed in Wind-Seeking City. He cultivated while waiting for the completion of the auction. Finally, half a month later, the immortal martial auction was completed. Lin Xian also quickly arranged for Wang Li and the rest to spread the news of the auction. This was his first auction, so the grander it was, the better. These matters were handed over to Wang Li, Dongfang and the rest. He himself quickly returned to the Immortal Martial Academy and prepared to request for a group of elders to oversee the auction. At this moment, the higher-ups of the Immortal Martial Academy were gathered in a grand hall and were discussing anxiously. Din Xian stood in the hall, looking around and said in a deep voice, "According to the news from the Palace of Gods of War, Lin Xian's identity has been confirmed. However, due to the current situation of the Palace of Gods of War, they were temporarily unable to acknowledge Lin Xian. However, we have to make preparations to support Lin Xian with all our might." Hearing Din Xian's words, the surrounding elders were all shocked. Originally, they were only guessing about Lin Xian's identity, but now that it was confirmed, they were still extremely shocked. They didn't expect that such a person would actually be in their Immortal Martial Academy. Since this is the case, how should we support him? One of the elders asked. Isn't he setting up the Immortal Martial auction? How about this? We will fully support this auction. We must make it the largest auction in the world. Another elder suggested. Hearing this, Din Xian nodded. Okay, let's prepare for the auction then. Coincidentally, we still have some things in our hands. We can use this auction to get them out. After discussing for a while, everyone finally nodded. This matter could be considered as settled. However, Din Xian didn't leave. Instead, she said in a low voice, "Everyone, that place is about to open again." That place. All the elders were stunned, after which, their expressions changed as they exclaimed, "What? It's about to open again? It's actually opened so much earlier this time. Yeah, it hasn't even been 100 years since the last time it opened. Who would have thought that it would open earlier this time?" All the elders were incomparably shocked. With regards to that place, they were all extremely solemn and fearful. I don't know the exact reason, but it seems to have something to do with the seal. But it's true that it's about to open. You all should know that although that place is dangerous, there are many heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures within. It can be said that it's a great opportunity. Hence, we can't ignore it. Not only that, the opening of that place not only concerns our Immortal Martial Academy, but also the entire Tianwu continent. Hearing this, the other elders nodded. Evidently, they agreed with Din Xian's words. How about this? Let's make use of this auction to spread the news. Just as well, let those old fellows from the other powers come over, and we can discuss this together. Everyone discussed and finally, they decided to place this matter on the Immortal Martial auction. However, Lin Xian still didn't know about all this. Initially, he only wanted to hold a grand auction, but from the looks of it now, it was no longer up to him. After Lin Xian returned, before he even went to the academy had already sent people to fetch him. This caused him to be extremely shocked. But this was also good. It saved him a lot of trouble. Very quickly, he met with Hall Master Wan and told him about his thoughts. Earlier, Hall Master Wan said that the academy wouldn't send too many elders. Hence, Lin Xian didn't have much confidence in this request. However, he didn't expect that Hall Master Wan would actually agree without hesitation. This caused him to be extremely shocked. However, since Hall Master Wan agreed, he wouldn't say anything. He only wanted to ensure the safety of this auction. Chapter 1045. Because not only did Hall Master Wan agree to send more elders to oversee the auction, he even took the initiative to spread the news. This caused Lin Xian to be even more astonished. His promotion was completely different from the promotion of the Immortal Martial Auction. One must know that the Immortal Martial Academy was one of the peak powers in the Tianwu continent. Their promotion of the auction would definitely cause a commotion among countless cultivators. Can I ask why? Lin Xian bitterly smiled. This matter was slightly out of his expectations. Hall Master Wan laughed. Since the Immortal Martial Auction is a collaboration between us, we naturally can't let you handle it alone. Not only that, we also have some items in our hands that we wish to auction off in this auction. As Hall Master Wan explained, Lin Xian felt more and more shocked because he discovered that the Immortal Martial Academy was planning to play big this time. The items in the hands of the Immortal Martial Academy were definitely not simple. If they appeared in the auction this time, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Hence, after hearing this news, Lin Xian was incomparably happy. With the support of the Immortal Martial Academy, the news of the auction spread at an astonishing speed. In just a few days, this news had already spread throughout the entire Blood Realm. Not only that, it also spread to other places in the Tianwu continent at an extremely fast speed. Those who heard the news were all stunned. What was the Immortal Martial Academy? It was one of the peak powers in the Tianwu continent, an existence on the level of a hegemon. Such a terrifying existence actually wanted to hold an auction, and even wanted to auction off some items from the academy? This was simply too shocking. One must know that items that the Immortal Martial Academy was willing to auction were definitely incomparably valuable. And when the crowd was inquiring about the Immortal Martial Auction, another name suddenly appeared in their vision. Lin Xian, a young man, was actually the owner of the Immortal Martial Auction. Not only that, this auction was jointly organized by him and the Immortal Martial Academy. After hearing this news, the crowd was incomparably shocked. They couldn't understand what capabilities this young man had to actually be able to receive such support and favor from the Immortal Martial Academy. For a period of time, the crowd was trying to find out more about Lin Xian. Not only the major powers, even the ordinary cultivators were trying to find out more. Visiting the streets, tea houses, taverns, everywhere there were martial artists talking about Lin Xian. Did you know? It's said that this young man Lin Xian is very impressive. Although he's only a new student, he managed to become the third most influential person on the mysterious venerate list within half a year. Freshman? Third on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. That's too terrifying. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The students of the Immortal Martial Academy weren't ordinary people. Each and every one of them were geniuses. The difficulty of standing out among these geniuses was countless times harder compared to other places. However, Lin Xian had gone from an unknown new student to an influential figure who was ranked in the top 3 of the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. This leap was simply too shocking. By the way, I also heard that the 3 great factions in the Wind-Seeking City were all eliminated by this young man called Lin Xian. Even the Wanxiang auction was no exception. What? He was the one who did it. I thought it was the Immortal Martial Academy. Everyone was shocked. One had to know that the Wanxiang auction was under young Master Ling Feng. This brat is too bold. Although he's ranked in the top 3 of the Immortal Martial Academy, isn't he courting death by going against young Master Ling Feng? Courting death? That's nothing. Another martial artist snorted. I've received the latest news that Lin Xian killed Lu Lai at the Crimson Crescent City's birthday banquet not long ago. What? Killed Lu Lai? Everyone was stunned and couldn't believe it. Lu Lai's name was very famous because he was the peerless genius of the Lu clan. The Lu clan was one of the 8 great clans under young Master Ling Feng. It could be said that they were extremely powerful. However, Lin Xian dared to attack the peerless genius of the Lu clan, and even killed him. This was simply too shocking. Everyone was shocked and extremely shocked. At this moment, another martial artist revealed another piece of shocking news. Not only did he kill Lu Lai, but he also killed the peerless assassins of the looming life-chasing organization. What? The 6 peerless assassins of the looming life-chasing organization. Everyone was stunned and felt that their brains weren't enough to process it. The looming life-chasing organization wasn't a clan like the Lu clan. It was a terrifying force that was even more terrifying than the Lu clan. The two weren't of the same nature at all. No matter how strong the Lu clan was, they were still a clan. There were still some restrictions on their actions. However, the looming life-chasing organization was different. They were an assassin organization that hid in the dark. No one knew where their headquarters were. However, this didn't affect their reputation at all. Back then, 49 peerless assassins chased after an 8th heavenly layer venerable expert and killed him in the end. Such a magnificent feat deeply shocked the crowd. It could be said that the looming life-chasing organization was an existence similar to the god of death in the blood realm. No matter who was targeted by the looming life-chasing organization, they wouldn't be able to escape. However, Lin Xian killed 6 of their assassins in a row and survived from a situation of certain death. This was simply too unbelievable. As the news was revealed one after another, Lin Xian's reputation became more and more famous, causing everyone to be extremely shocked and puzzled at the same time. They really wanted to know what this powerful young man, who was full of miracles, was like. For a time, countless warriors set off for wind-seeking city, wanting to find out what was going on. As for the news of Lin Xian and the immortal martial auction, it spread wildly throughout the entire blood realm. However, when the Lu clan heard the news, they were abnormally furious. The top genius in their clan had been killed, which made them incomparably crazy. Initially, they had wanted to keep the news a secret and secretly kill Lin Xian in order to vent the hatred in their hearts. However, they did not expect that the news would be exposed in such a short period of time. Furthermore, it had spread to the point where everyone knew about it. This was a slap to their Lu clan's face. Now that everyone knew that their genius had been killed, how could they raise their heads in front of others in the future? No, we must vent the hatred in our hearts by killing that detestable brat. Otherwise, the Lu clan will definitely become the target of ridicule in the future. Everyone in the Lu clan gritted their teeth. Meanwhile, in a huge and magnificent palace, a beautiful woman was so angry that she shattered everything around her. This action directly scared the maids to the point that they all knelt on the ground. Lin Xian, you dare to kill my brother. I will definitely tear you into pieces. The beautiful woman's face was filled with killing intent, her voice ferocious. She was Lu Lai's younger sister Lu Mei. The moment she heard that Lu Lai was dead, she was completely stunned. She didn't believe that someone could kill her brother. Someone actually dared to kill her brother. One had to know that Lu Lai was very powerful. As the top warrior of the younger generation, he had many powerful trump cards in his hands. Within the same level, there was no one who could kill him. As for the older generation, they didn't dare to make a move. No one dared to not give face to young Master Ling Feng. One had to know that she was young Master Ling Feng's woman, so no one dared to provoke her brother. However, she didn't expect that someone would actually kill her brother. Chapter 1046. Lin Xian. So what if you have the support of the Immortal Martial Academy? How dare you kill my brother? I'll kill you. I'll use your head as a sacrifice to my brother. Lu Mei's voice was cold. She had decided to use all her strength to kill Lin Xian. On the other side, the remaining cultivators of the Wanxiang auction were so angry that their teeth almost broke when they heard the news. Their faces were ferocious and murderous aura surged from their bodies. Damn it, I'm so pissed off. 6 peerless assassins couldn't kill him? What the hell are those people doing? The people of the Wanxiang auction roared in anger. Sure enough, they were the ones who hired the life-chasing organization. In order to assassinate Lin Xian, they had spent almost all their savings to hire the life-chasing organization. He originally thought that it would be a piece of cake to kill Lin Xian with the means of the life-chasing organization. However, they didn't expect the life-chasing organization to fail twice. They couldn't believe it and couldn't accept it. Although they were young Master Ling Feng's men, they couldn't let young Master Ling Feng intervene in this matter. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a personal grudge, but a battle between two top forces. Therefore, young Master Ling Feng wouldn't intervene unless it was absolutely necessary. They had to use other forces. However, the assassin organization that they relied on was useless now. This made them furious. What should we do? Do we really need to ask the higher-ups for help? No, we can't let the higher-ups intervene. Young Master Ling Feng doesn't like to keep useless people. If we can't do this, it means that we're useless. Then, we'll have no value. An old man shook his head quickly. In the end, it's all because of this damned life-chasing organization. I thought they were powerful, but they couldn't even kill a kid and wasted a huge amount of our wealth. Another middle-aged man snorted. However, at this moment, a cold voice came from the void. Who gave you the courage to speak ill of the life-chasing organization behind their backs? The voice was cold and emotionless. It was like a sharp blade cutting through the void, sending chills down the spine of those who heard it. The people of the Wanxiang auction were stunned when they heard the voice. They looked around nervously. In the next moment, the space in front of them rippled, and a black figure appeared before them. It was a middle-aged man dressed in a black robe with a sharp aura. Although his face was ordinary, his eyes were unusually cold and carried a strong murderous aura. When they saw this figure, the faces of the people from the Wanxiang auction changed. This was because they knew that the middle-aged man in front of them was none other than the life hunters that they had mentioned before. Only those assassins could have such a strong murderous aura. One of the old men sighed. We didn't mean to insult Zhui Ming. We were just a little impatient. The middle-aged man from before snorted coldly. What? You guys are incompetent and failed twice in a row. You don't even allow us to speak. You should know that we paid the spirit stones. We gave you such a large sum of spirit stones, but you still couldn't complete the task. Damn it. At this time, the black-robed assassin said coldly, You don't have to worry about the assassination. That person called Lin Xian is already on our kill list. Now even if you didn't give us the task list, we would still kill him. I'm here to inform you of this matter. Hearing this, the people from the Wanxiang auction were overjoyed. Many of them even looked excited. The must-kill list of the life-chasing organization was an extremely terrifying list, because no one who had been on that list had been able to survive until now. Now that Lin Xian was on the list, they believed that it wouldn't be long before he would be assassinated. When they thought of this, they revealed a sinister smile. It seemed that the two failures had really angered the life hunters. They must have put Lin Xian on the kill list to protect their reputation. Otherwise, with Lin Xian's strength, it would be impossible for him to be on the list. This was because everyone on the kill list was a very famous and powerful martial artist. Seeing the excited expressions of the crowd, the middle-aged assassin from the life hunters said coldly, I've finished speaking. But when I came here, I heard that someone dared to slander our life hunters. This made me very angry. At the end of his sentence, a terrifying murderous aura exuded from the assassin's body. It formed a materialized light that spread out in all directions. The entire space suddenly froze. Everyone trembled as if they were being choked by their necks and could not breathe. The middle-aged man from the Wanxiang auction narrowed his eyes, and his expression changed drastically. This was because he felt a cold murderous aura locking onto him. In the next moment his scalp went numb. With a horrified expression, he turned around and fled. However, just as he turned around, a crescent moon light suddenly flashed in the air and slashed directly at his head. Puff! Fresh blood spurted into the sky. A human head flew high up into the air before landing heavily on the ground. The middle-aged man from the auction quickly fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, the remaining martial artists' expressions changed drastically. They were all terrified. They didn't expect the black-robed man in front of them to kill them. You! One of the old men was so angry that his whole body trembled. The life hunter slowly put away the crescent moon blade in his hand and said coldly, Life hunters cannot be humiliated. Those who dare to humiliate life hunters will disappear from this world. I hope you guys will keep your mouths shut in the future. Otherwise, you will end up like him. After saying this, the middle-aged assassin's body gradually faded. In the end, he turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared. The surrounding martial artists stared at the headless corpse on the ground and felt a chill. Lin Xian naturally didn't know that these people had already started to move. He was especially busy now, because the Immortal Martial Academy had released another big move. The Immortal Martial Academy was going to auction off a wordless stone tablet. This stone tablet was left behind by a king. Because it was a king from ancient times, it contained the insights of that king when he was in seclusion. There were even some self-created martial arts. When this news spread out, the entire Blood Realm was shocked. Countless powerful venerables were abnormally agitated. Their faces flushed red, and they couldn't wait to fly over and participate in this auction. King, that was the peak existence of the continent. Moreover, that stone tablet was left behind by an ancient king. Chapter 1047. It's not just the Blood Realm, the entire Sky Martial continent is shaken. The insights left behind by a king are the best in the continent. No matter who obtains it, it will be a heaven-defying fortune. Furthermore, it was left behind by an ancient king. Even those king families cannot ignore it. You're absolutely right. I heard that a few king families outside have already started to move. Those 6-star sects are also heading there. Once the news was out, everyone was shocked. King families were the top forces in the continent. There were only a few of them in the entire Sky Martial continent. Now a wordless stone tablet had attracted all of them. This was absolutely shocking news. After Lin Xian heard it, he was also shocked. He did not expect the academy to take out such a precious item. However, after the shock, he was overjoyed. Once the news was out, the whole world would be shaken. At that time, countless powerful forces and peerless experts would come to participate in the auction. This would definitely make his auction the grandest auction in history. With this kind of reputation, it would be much easier to hold auctions in the future. Lin Xian was also excited. He decided to refine some purple spirit pills and auction them together. As the news spread, countless martial artists started to move towards Wenfeng City. Not only the Blood Realm's major forces, even the entire Sky Martial continent's experts were coming. In a short period of time, Wenfeng City became the center of attention of the entire Sky Martial continent. A storm was brewing in Windy City, and many experts had arrived. The Immortal Martial Auction was also completed with the final decorations. Originally, the Immortal Martial Auction was surrounded by a huge illusory array. No one could see the situation inside. However, on this day, Lin Xian finally gave the order to remove the illusory array. As the faint light disappeared, a huge palace appeared in front of everyone. This palace was extremely majestic. It was like a huge mountain, standing in the middle of Wenfeng City. This was the newly built Immortal Martial Auction. It was extremely grand, and could even accommodate 100,000 people. Compared to the previous Wanxiang auction, this auction was much more majestic. There was no comparison between the two. At this moment, all the martial artists in Wenfeng City raised their heads and looked at the huge palace in the middle. Then everyone let out a shocking exclamation. There was no way around it, it was too majestic. The entire palace was suffused with a faint purple light. The entire structure was built with purple spirit wood, and could be said to be incomparably solid. The purple light flickered like clouds of purple qi, continuously rolling and enveloping the entire palace. The huge building was richly carved with all kinds of precious beasts, and they were as lifelike as pine trees. How was this an auction? This was simply a heavenly palace. Lin Xian was also very satisfied with the appearance of this auction. He, Wang Li, Dongfang Xiong, and the others climbed up to the top of the palace. Standing on top of a tall building, they leaned on the railing and looked down. He knew that in the near future, a super auction would be held here. This was going to be an unprecedented golden age. It far exceeded the previous Wanxiang auction, as he knew that the participants of the auction this time were all terrifying figures and peerless experts. Even in the entire Sky Martial continent, such a standard was rarely seen. After that, Lin Xian led Wang Li, Dongfang Xiong, and the others to carefully inspect the formations in the palace. Everyone nodded in satisfaction and excitement. By the way, how are the preparations for the auction going? Lin Xian asked. It's almost done. In the horrified eyes of the crowd, countless rays of light flashed, and 9 huge flood dragons appeared in the sky, side by side. Behind them, a bronze chariot that was suffused with divine light was quickly approaching. The 9 flood dragons were huge, and they roared ferociously. They soared through the clouds, bringing with them a shocking power of wind and thunder as they rushed over. At this moment, everyone's expression changed. Even the experts from the blood field, who had come earlier, were shocked and terrified. There were only a few days until the auction, so all the big forces and experts of the blood realm had come to Windy City. Among these people, there were 6th Heaven venerables. There were patriarchs of big families and sect masters of powerful religions. They thought that they were big shots above everyone else in the blood realm. However, at this moment, compared to the other party, they were insignificant. Chapter 1048. 9 Jiao Dragons Pulling the Chariot. This method was absolutely heaven-defying. One had to know that these were Jiao dragons. Although they weren't real dragons, they still had the blood of dragons. They could be said to be incomparably powerful, truly terrifying beasts. Even some of the strongest experts couldn't fight against them. However, such terrifying beasts were being used to pull a chariot, and there were 9 of them. Just thinking about this scene made one's heart tremble. 9 Jiao dragons pulling a gigantic bronze chariot. That kind of scene was extremely spectacular. To be able to use 9 Jiao dragons to pull a chariot, that person was definitely a peerless figure. Such a person, even if you searched the entire blood realm, you wouldn't be able to find more than a few. Only those powerful king clans would have such boldness. The 9 Jiao dragons roared ferociously, their gigantic bodies filling up the space. They also stopped above Wind-Seeking City and didn't land. Everyone looked at the sky above the city and sucked in a breath of cold air. However, they were extremely excited in their hearts. One had to know that normally, they wouldn't have the chance to see these big shots, not to mention such a spectacle. But today, in just one day, they actually saw 2 peerless figures. This was an earth-shattering event to them. Moreover, they believed that as the auction went on, there would definitely be more terrifying figures arriving. Lin Xian had already informed the Immortal Martial Academy about what happened here. The appearance of such a big shot wasn't something he could handle. He had to invite the elders or palace masters of the academy. The academy didn't delay, and directly sent the elders to Wind-Seeking City. Sect Master Lin Xian was in charge of everything. Very quickly time flowed. It was less than 3 days before the start of the Immortal Martial Auction. Wind-Seeking City was extremely lively, with all kinds of powerful cultivators walking around. The White Jade Divine Arc and the 9 Jiao Chariot stopped high in the sky, becoming a spectacle. On this day, the void fluctuated again. A gigantic figure covered the sky, thousands of miles long, majestically coming from afar. It was a gigantic divine bird with 3 heads. It looked ferocious and terrifying. Wherever it passed, there would be sounds of wind and thunder, causing the entire void to tremble. Accompanying it was a terrifying and vast aura, rolling over like the waves of the sea. Divine Bird Palace. Many martial artists below sucked in a breath of cold air, because in the Tianwu continent, only the Divine Bird Palace had such a powerful and terrifying 3-headed divine bird. Countless people's hearts trembled. They did not expect that another powerful force would descend upon Wind-Seeking City. The huge 3-headed divine bird circled in the air, riding on the clouds. Then with a few flashes of light, countless powerful figures flew down quickly. In an instant, the cultivators of the Divine Bird Palace landed on the street. Their faces were arrogant, and they walked with majestic gait. Each of them exuded a powerful aura, which made the surrounding martial artists not dare to approach them. Soon, these people disappeared from the streets, leaving behind numerous martial artists who were trembling in fear. However, before these martial artists could come back to their senses, another phenomenon appeared in the sky. A shocking sword light flew over from the distance, splitting mountains and splitting rivers. It was incomparably terrifying, and it tore the clouds in half. Terrifying sword chi spread out in all directions. A gigantic heavenly sword appeared in the sky. It was engraved with densely packed inscriptions, and emitted a terrifying energy. White figures flew out from the huge sword, and they were like rays of sword light, rushing down instantly. This was a group of swordsmen. Every one of them was dressed in white robes, and they carried long swords on their backs. Their expressions were extremely sharp, like unsheathed swords. Deity sword manner. Seeing this group of people, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air again. This was definitely a terrifying force. Soon, the elders of the Celestial Martial Academy came and invited these people in. Next, various powerful forces arrived one after another. Lin Xian followed Hall Master Wan to receive them. At this moment, a golden light flashed in the sky, and countless rays of light gathered, as if a sun had descended upon wind-seeking city. That terrifying aura was unbearable to the crowd. So terrifying, what is that? Countless people looked at this scene, and their hearts trembled. Under the horrified gaze of the crowd, the golden sun spun rapidly, and finally formed a human figure. It was an old man in a Taoist robe. His body shone with a golden light, as if he was covered in golden feathers, emitting a metallic luster. Taoist Golden Crow. When Hall Master Wan saw that figure, he didn't dare to delay, and hurriedly went up to him. Beside him, Lin Xian was also shocked because he had seen Taoist Golden Crow before. Previously, he had seen Taoist Golden Crow forging weapons on the 8th level of the Blazing Mountain. He didn't expect that he would meet him again. When Taoist Golden Crow appeared, he didn't look at Hall Master Wan directly. Instead, he frowned and looked at the other side of the sky. Seeing this scene, the crowd was puzzled. However, Taoist Golden Crow snorted coldly, and his cold voice rang out. "Who are you? Acting so sneakily. I hate people like you the most." After saying that, he waved his hand, and countless rays of golden light gathered. It was as if a pair of golden wings had streaked across the sky. Countless rays of golden light pierced through the sky, and flew to a corner of the sky. The crowd was shocked, and their eyes widened. They couldn't understand, because there was no one there. Why would this old man do that? However, at the next moment they understood. There was nothing in the sky at first, but suddenly, there were several screams. Then terrifying blood spread out, dyeing the sky red. 5 black-clothed corpses fell from the sky. Each of them had countless golden feathers piercing through their bodies. Seeing the corpses, many people screamed in shock. The Life Chaser organization. Lin Xian's face turned ghastly pale. Needless to say, those people were there to kill him. However, he didn't expect Taoist Golden Crow to attack first and kill them. As the 5 corpses fell to the ground, another figure quickly ran off into the distance like a ghostly wisp of smoke. However, Taoist Golden Crow snorted coldly. He stretched out his hand like a giant beast's claw and grabbed upward. Soon, the illusory figure was forced out of the sky. It was an old man with gray hair. His eyes were like the god of death, and they were filled with a terrifying murderous aura. "How dare you touch me? I'm a member of the Life Chaser organization." The old man roared ferociously. "Who are you? It's none of my business. How dare you act sneakily in front of me? Only death awaits you." Taoist Golden Crow snorted coldly. He stretched out his giant palm, which was shining with a terrifying golden light, and grabbed toward the old man. He didn't care who the old man was and attacked directly. "Umph." The old man in black also shouted angrily, and a powerful aura burst out from his body. The aura was too terrifying. It was like a flash flood, and it made people despair. 6th level honorable realm. Everyone screamed when they felt the aura. Lin Xian's face turned ghastly pale in an instant. He didn't expect the other party to send a peerless assassin, like a 6th level honorable realm, to kill him. Chapter 1049. This battle was extremely dangerous for Lin Xian. One had to know that even though he was powerful, and was the leader of the younger generation, he was only at the 4th heaven of the Venerable Realm. Even if he went all out, he could at most fight against a 5th heaven of the Venerable Realm. But against a 6th heaven of the Venerable Realm, he had no power to fight back. It could be said that if the 6th heaven of the Venerable Realm attacked, he would definitely die. The surrounding people were also shocked. They naturally knew about the hatred between Lin Xian and the life-chasing organization. But they did not expect that the life-chasing organization would send a sixth heaven of the venerable realm to kill Lin Xian. This was definitely a death situation. Even Hall Master Wan's face was extremely gloomy. Lin Xian was a genius disciple of the Immortal Martial Academy, but the life-chasing organization did not care about the Immortal Martial Academy and sent such a peerless assassin to kill Lin Xian. This made him extremely angry. Fortunately, Taoist Golden Crow had attacked, otherwise he would have attacked too. In the void, the black-robed old man emitted the powerful aura of a sixth heaven of the venerable realm. He was like a god of war, looking disdainfully at the surroundings as he resisted the terrifying palm. However, Taoist Golden Crow snorted in disdain. "Assassin! I hate assassins the most. Die! Die!" In the sky, the golden palm flew out with a flickering golden light. It was like a golden sun as it quickly rushed towards the black-robed old man. This scene was too terrifying. It was as if a real sun was held in Taoist Golden Crow's hand and blasted in all directions. Bang! The two collided. Without any suspense, the black-robed old man was forcefully refined by the golden sun and turned into a bloody mist under the horrified gazes of the crowd. In the end, all the blood in the sky evaporated, leaving nothing behind. It was as if it had never appeared. Seeing this scene, the hearts of the crowd trembled violently, and their scalps went numb. A strong sense of fear rose from the bottom of their hearts. That was a sixth heaven of the venerable realm, an extremely powerful existence. However, he could not even withstand a single blow, and was forcefully refined into a bloody mist. In the end, not even a trace of blood was left behind. This old man is too terrifying. Who exactly is he? Could it be that the sect leader of a sixth-rank sect has attacked? Everyone discussed spiritedly, not daring to believe what they were seeing. It was because this type of method was just too terrifying, too heaven-defying. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he watched this scene. His heart was pounding wildly, and he felt the blood in his body boiling. This was a true peerless expert. To be able to kill a sixth-layer martial venerable assassin with a single move, Yichen didn't take the other party seriously at all. At this moment, Lin Xian was extremely excited. He knew that this was his true goal. Taking a deep breath, he calmed the excitement in his heart, and his eyes flashed with a shocking light. Because he believed that one day, he would also reach such heights. Temple Master Wan's expression was grave. He moved and quickly took Taoist Golden Crow away. Knowing that the terrifying figure had disappeared, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They found that the clothes on their backs were completely soaked, as if they had gone through a great battle. Who exactly was that old man? However, it was so terrifying that it could kill a sixth heaven venerable in one move. Taoist Golden Crow, he is Taoist Golden Crow. Someone said with a trembling voice. Are you saying that he is the peerless demon who has lived for more than 1,000 years? An expert from the Golden Crow clan? Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They didn't expect that such a powerful old man wasn't a human but a demon. Not only that, he was from the Golden Crow clan, which was extremely powerful among the demons. It was no wonder that he was so domineering and didn't take the life-chasing organization seriously at all. The Golden Crow clan was extremely terrifying. It was an existence that could compete with the Human King clans. Why would they take an assassin organization seriously? After knowing the other party's identity, everyone was shocked. Taoist Golden Crow attacked the life-chasing organization. Could it be that he was protecting Lin Xian? Everyone guessed. If that was the case, the news was too terrifying. No, it doesn't look like it. I guess he doesn't like people hiding around him. A martial artist said. Hearing this, everyone was speechless. Just because he hated the other party's actions, he banned all the assassins from the life-chasing organization in one move. This was too domineering and arrogant. However, no one dared to say anything because he had the right to be domineering and arrogant. In the crowd, the people from the Vientiane auction were also mixed in. When they saw this scene, they were so shocked that their jaws dropped. They didn't expect the life-chasing organization to send a sixth heaven venerable realm assassin to kill Lin Xian. However, what was even more unexpected was that these assassins were mercilessly killed before they could even make a move. The reason was that the other party didn't like people hiding around him. Needless to say, these assassins were really unlucky. Damn it! That brat's luck is so good. He actually dodged that sure-kill attack. The people from the Vientiane auction looked ferocious. They were gritting their teeth so hard that they almost broke. Originally, Lin Xian would definitely die if a Sixth Heaven Venerable Realm assassin attacked. But now, all their plans were in vain. Let's go, we can't stay here any longer. There are too many big shots around him. If we attack now, it's tantamount to courting death. The people from the Vientiane auction retreated. Although they were unwilling, they didn't dare to joke around with their lives. The group of people quickly escaped through the crowd. They weren't the only ones who were shocked. The people from the Lu clan were also shocked. They also saw this scene, and their eyelids twitched. Elder, what should we do? Do we still follow the original plan? A middle-aged man asked. The leader was a grand elder from the Lu family. His eyelids twitched when he heard this. Cancel the plan. Don't attack. There are too many big shots. If we anger any of them, we won't be able to fight against them. Let's wait until the auction is over. The grand elder of the Lu family immediately cancelled the plan to assassinate Lin Xian. He was really scared. Even a Sixth Heaven Venerable Realm assassin was killed in one move. He didn't dare to take the risk now. If Lin Xian still had such a person around him, he would be dead for sure. For a moment, those who wanted to kill Lin Xian all hid themselves. They didn't dare to show their faces. However, none of this could escape Lin Xian's eyes. Brother Xian, I found out that the people from the Vientiane auction and the Lu family have come to Wind-Seeking City. Moreover, according to various signs, the life-chasing organization was invited by the Vientiane auction. Yu Fei quickly said from the side. Head entered the Venerable Realm a long time ago. Moreover, Head relied on his outstanding intelligence-gathering skills and the enormous resources in Lin Xian's possession to establish an intelligence network that was beginning to take shape. He didn't dare to say anything about other places, but in Wind-Seeking City, no movement could escape his eyes. Therefore, the Vientiane auction and the Lu family's movements were all under his control. Send someone to keep a close eye on them. Be careful, don't make a move on the Lu family. As for the Vientiane auction, let Dongfang take care of it with a group of people. Chapter 1050. The other party had sent assassins to assassinate him time and time again. This time it was even more dangerous. They had actually sent out a 6th-level venerable. If it weren't for the special circumstances, he would have been assassinated already. He wouldn't be lenient towards such an enemy. As for the Lu family, since they dared to make a move on him, he wouldn't let them off either. However, now wasn't the time. Yu Fei received the order and quickly left, preparing to send people to monitor the two parties. Dongfang Xiong even brought an elite team from the Dragon Sword Pavilion to work together with Yu Fei. After giving the orders, Lin Xian didn't pay any more attention to them. His attention was completely focused on the auction. Originally, he was still worried that the Lu family and the life-chasing organization would cause trouble. However, it seemed like this worry was completely gone. Because the lineup for this auction was too strong. Peerless experts from all the major powers had come. There was no need for Lin Xian to say anything. There was definitely no one who would dare to cause trouble here. Whoever made a move here would become the enemy of all the major powers. Finally, under everyone's anticipation, the Immortal Martial Auction finally began. Above Wind-Seeking City, on the huge white jade divine land, and the 9-dragon chariot, two important figures entered the Immortal Martial Auction under the invitation of the Immortal Martial Academy's elders. The huge palace emitted a faint purple light, emitting a dreamy color. The peerless experts from the major powers were led into the auction by the Wan Palace's main clan. As for the younger generation, Lin Xian was in charge. Of course, Lin Xian wasn't receiving ordinary people. He was receiving the younger generation of the major powers. During this process, he met the Shen family's disciple again. This time, other than Shen Yulong and the 6th-level pill inscription master, there was another young man. The young man was handsome. There was a heroic spirit between his eyebrows. Every move he made had an extraordinary temperament. Lin Xian discovered that even the 6 pill inscription masters were standing behind this person. Seeing this, Lin Xian was very surprised. However, he didn't care. No matter who the other party was, they wouldn't dare to cause trouble in this auction. When Shen Yulong and the 6th grade alchemy inscription master saw Lin Xian, their faces instantly darkened. Yo, I didn't expect to meet the 2 geniuses of the Shen family again. Lin Xian looked at the Shen Yulong duo and said indifferently. Hearing the word genius, Shen Yulong and the gloomy young man's faces turned even darker. When others called them geniuses, they would feel proud and complacent. However, when Lin Xian called them geniuses, they felt like they were being mocked and despised. It couldn't be helped. Lin Xian was too heaven-defying. Whether it was strength or talent, he was stronger than them. Shen Yulong snorted coldly, his expression extremely gloomy. That 6th grade alchemist's countenance turned even darker as he coldly spoke. Don't be so complacent. Aren't you just relying on the backing of the Immortal Martial Academy to host an auction? What's there to be arrogant about? Although he was shouting coldly, there was a strong sense of jealousy in his words. Holding an auction isn't a big deal, but you probably won't have the chance to do so in your lifetime. Lin Xian shrugged. Moreover, you seem to be inferior to me in alchemy, right? You. Hearing this, the gloomy young man trembled with anger. However, he soon started laughing coldly. Who knows if that 7th grade pill was concocted by you? Maybe it was concocted by an elder of the Immortal Martial Academy, and you're just an imposter. Don't think that your alchemy skills are unparalleled under the heavens. In my opinion, there are plenty of people who can trample you to death. There are indeed plenty of people, but you aren't one of them. Lin Xian shrugged, with an indifferent expression on his face. Hearing this, the gloomy young man had the urge to vomit blood. At this moment, the handsome young man beside him who had been silent all this while suddenly spoke. You are that Lin Xian. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, and an air of arrogance could be seen between his brows. That's right, it's him. Before Lin Xian could speak, the 6th grade alchemist beside him gritted his teeth and spoke. Hearing this, the handsome young man nodded, after which, his eyes narrowed as an indescribable energy gushed out from his body, gushing towards Lin Xian. Feeling this energy, Lin Xian furrowed his brows, and his expression sank. This was because he could feel that this was the power of soul force. And it was an extremely powerful soul force. This soul force far surpassed that of the gloomy young man beside him. To be able to reach this level of soul force, he definitely wasn't simple. At this moment, the handsome young man slowly spoke. His soul force was very strong, but it didn't seem to have reached the standard of a 7th grade alchemist. This strength was only at the peak of a 6th grade alchemist, but compared to me, the difference was too great. The handsome young man shook his head. Hearing this, Shen Yulong and the gloomy young man's expressions changed, and soon after, a joyful smile appeared on their faces. Like I said, how could he be a 7th grade alchemist? Now it seems like he really isn't. That's right. Refining a 7th grade pill? That's just a bunch of nonsense. In my opinion, that pill wasn't refined by him at all. The two of them looked at Lin Xian with a cold smile on their faces. At this moment, the handsome young man spoke again. Brat, you can't be too arrogant, especially when it comes to alchemy. You should tuck your tail between your legs and behave yourself. You should know that there are many people who are more outstanding than you. At least compared to me, you're nothing. The handsome young man's face was full of arrogance, and his eyebrows were filled with conceit. He didn't put Lin Xian in his eyes at all. The gloomy young man also sneered. Of course, with Brother Tianyu making a move, he definitely won't be a match for you. Brat, in front of Brother Tianyu, you're nothing. However, the handsome young man shook his head. Unless it's a 7th grade alchemist, no one is worthy of me making a move. After saying this, he directly walked into the auction house, and didn't look at Lin Xian again. Seeing the handsome young man walk in, Shen Yulong and the gloomy young man sneered and quickly followed. Looking at the 3 figures, Wang Li was so angry that he gnashed his teeth. Who do they think they are? They actually dare to be arrogant in front of Brother Xian. Yeah, Brother Xian, why don't you teach them a lesson? Look at that brat's arrogant attitude. Those who don't know would think that he's a pill king. Another Dragon Sword Pavilion disciple also had a face full of anger. Lin Xian's face was also gloomy. The other party was too arrogant. However, he didn't act blindly without thinking, because from the soul force test just now, he knew that the other party's soul force was very powerful, and had already reached the level of a 7th grade alchemist. This was definitely a powerful opponent. Don't underestimate him. He should be a 7th grade alchemist, Lin Xian slowly said. A 7th grade alchemist? Him? Wang Li and the others were shocked, and they sucked in a breath of cold air. They didn't expect that the handsome young man was actually a 7th grade alchemist. This couldn't help but be shocked. It had to be known that 7th grade alchemists were extremely rare and precious, and every one of them was a VIP that various powers fought over. Ordinary 7th grade alchemists were all old monsters that had lived for hundreds of years, and there were very few young people like him. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.